Hello everybody, Joe Bag Donuts here. Welcome back for another episode of Mihoyo. I'm tired today, like really tired. I don't know what it is. Like, I slept 8 hours today. I woke up, had like my dinner slash breakfast because it's 5 p.m. Well, it's almost 6 now, but you know what I mean. And then I'm immediately just like, I need to go back to bed. Like, my body's just telling me, all right, you've been up long enough, go sleep again. And it, just required to hibernate, I guess. Maybe it's because I haven't had any coffee the past couple days, and my body's like shutting down, just like going into a catatonic state, because it's like you're not supposed to be awake right now. There's no caffeine in your system. I got some tea. Not my normal green tea either. I got a tin of orange pekoe, which is pretty good. I brewed it a little longer today. The 5 minutes on the tin, it wasn't as strong as I'd like it to be. So let's see how 6 minutes steeping time is. Okay, yeah, that's better. I could probably do some with some milk in it, but black is fine for now because the only milk I have in my fridge has been in there for like 7 months and has turned to like fucking cottage cheese on the bottom. And I'm scared to touch it because it's so like, the carton's so bloated, I feel like it might explode and go everywhere. So I'm just gonna push that to the back of my fridge with all the other like strange, misshapen things that no longer resemble food. And just not think about it like I do all my other problems. But what we are going to think about is what happened last time. What happened last time in the story? We learned about Tobimaru's weird fucking Umineko fucking inheritance issues. Sojiro is like in a familial sugar baby situation. Strange things afoot. But you know what else is strange? Ploys. Let's learn about them because they're vague, and I don't know what the fuck they are. Huh. What is a familiar? Oh, this is where those come from.
Ploy. 魔法のマの字も知らない全国のシャバゾウども。ヒロインにならんと高校デビューしたものの、真のヒロインにその座を奪われた青セーターども。こんばんはす。
I have no idea what you meant by that, but sure.
話をよくわからない方向でレクチャーする新番組。なぜなにプロイの時間すよ。
Great, sounds easy to understand. I also love how that book, like, it does not fit into this art style whatsoever.
司会はグレート3プラス1こと。
Just grab that Unity asset and plop it down in. It's fine. It's a placeholder.
ティーチャー役にはマイ天使であるところのアリスさんをお招きしたっす。つうかここアリスさんの部屋っすね。時間になってもアリスさんがスタジオに来ないんで、アリスさんの部屋にカメラ持ち込んだっすよ。発想の転換なんす？ゲストが来ないならゲストの部屋でやればいいじゃない？
What's with the big pot?
いいから始めてちょうだい。1秒でも早く終わらせて、光より早く出て行って。
ういやー、照れるっすー。のたうち回るっすー。
I don't know what that means. 2-8? Like...
なぜ？
いや、自分的にビジネスはすぐに終わらせてあなたとプライベートタイムに入りたいなと解釈したっす。鎮語の奥の深さってやべっすよね。正直相手や自分が何を伝えたいのか9割方は意味不明。
Just nothing but fucking TV static in my brain.
そうね。私もその意見には賛成よ。
うわ、この言葉知る信頼感。頼られるって時に重いっす。
They took off the titles of all the chapters so that way we can't get sneak peeks about what might be lying ahead.
ロビン。
チャス。今回は処方の処方。使い魔の説明っすよ。魔術音痴の一元さんに優しい授業。それがなぜなにプロイなわけっすね。
Clearly, there's some kind of familiar, so explain to us what a familiar is.
で、この使い魔ってなんすか、アリスさん。自分生まれてこの方見たことも聞いたこともないっすよ。
使い魔というのは魔術師が刺激するロボットみたいなものよ。
Okay.
古来から魔術師は工房にこもって研鑽を重ねるのがなりわいだから、信頼できるものに素材集めや外界の偵察、外敵の駆除を任せるの。
ただの駒使いっすね。それは弟子とは違うんすか？
違うわ。弟子というのは技を引き継いで死を超える後継者でしょ。彼らはいずれ死を超える義務があるし、
And a familiar is
死
just a
も
tool.
そういうものでなければ弟子には取らないわ。でも使い魔は作られた時の性能が全てだから、成長しないものを後継ぎにはできないわ。
Cool. Fixed entities. Gotcha.
そっか。どうりで自分何年経っても記憶容量増えないわけっすね。しかるに生まれた時からパーフェクトだったと。
That's one way of looking at it.
そうね。パーフェクトに役立たずね。使い魔の多くは小動物をベースに作られるわ。これは使い魔は術者からの魔力供給で活動するタイプが多いから。
Compact. Energy efficient.
使い魔は大きいほど魔力提供を必要とする。だから魔力消費も少なく、作ってしまえば動力を自力で補充できる小動物は便利なの。
自分狩りとかしたことないっすよ。タンパク質も食物繊維もいらないっす。
You have like a magic battery.
あなたたちプロイはまた別のくくり。とにかく魔術師たちにとって使い魔は自分の命令を聞く従者、ペットだと思えばいいわ。このように猫や鳥、ネズミを使い魔にするのが一般的ね。
And don't pet the cat. Otherwise, it gets weird emotional attachments and likes to invade people's dreams.
アリさん、この物騒なのはどういうカテゴリーっすか？
これは戦闘用に調律された自動人形。ここまで来るとファミリアというよりセンチネルだけど。
Okay. Is that a completely different category? Or is that like a subcategory?
これは使い魔のセオリーから外れた特注品よ。またあなたのように人間互換できる知性を持った使い魔も特例にあたるわ。でもそんなのは魔力の無駄ね。コストが高いだけ。大抵は術者本人が済ませた方が早かったり、もっと安い材料で代用できるから。
Alright, not very cost efficient.
手段と結果を間違えるってやつっすね。じゃあ使い魔は術者より弱いんすね。あくまで前座ってことっすか？うわ、マジ使えないやつらっす。
あなたらしい短絡思考ね、ロビン。しびれるわ。
Well,
こ
yeah,
れが
like
私
what if
の
your
使い
familiar
魔
gets
だ
out
な
of
ん
hand?
て
You gotta be able
ど
to
うに
pop
か
them
なって
down.
しまいそう。
アリスさん、言葉は素敵なのにどうして顔が怖いんすか？
術者の10分の1ぐらいの性能しかなくても、本人より強い使い魔を作ることは簡単よ。試しに今度あなたのお腹にデリンジャーを埋め込んでみましょうか。泣いたり笑ったり飛んだりはできなくなるけど、相手を驚かせるぐらいはできるわ、きっと。
I'm losing my mind.
かっちょいいっせー。クリスマスに大活躍の予感。
That's so rice and chicken. You're just making shit up now.
まさに豆鉄砲ね。そのまま消費されてくれないかしら。
なんか当たりきついっす。でもこれで大まかな説明はしたっすね。
Yeah, the basics. Moving on.
使い魔は魔術師を守るロボットで、その性能は作った魔術師によってまちまちと。万能感あふれるアリスさんはともかく、青子さんが使い魔を作ったらどうなるっすか？
ありえない過程ね。青子には使い魔を作るだけの技量はないもの。
Even if she could, she doesn't really seem the type.
そもそも彼女は壊すことしかできないのよ。その唯一の特技を使い魔に任せてしまったら、存在意義も跡形もなく壊れてしまうわ。
はあ、さりげにひどい発言っす。
戦闘において青子は使い魔に任せる必要がない。 逆に私は戦うことはできないから。
Yeah, so you use fucking scary shit like that flat snark.
なるほど。青子さんは青子さん自身が強い。
Or your big
アリス
golem.
さんはアリスさんの周りが強い。
チェス、いえ、将棋で例えるなら青子は王将だけの陣営。私は陣営こそ強力だけど王将自体が負の能力しかないというイメージね。
アリスさんは体力も運動
I think
神
the
経も
one
な
on
い
the right
うん
was a
ちキャラだったっ
gold
す。
general. I wasn't sure what the piece on the left was. I don't have the shogi piece kanji memorized.
泳ぎは犬かきしかできない。鉄棒もできなければ自転車にも
Damn,
乗
not
れ
a single
ない。
push-up?
体育の時間は校庭の端っこで座っているだけの簡単なお仕事。だがそれがいい。自分盗撮してるから知ってるっすよ。巻いてしよう。ただ美しく。あれ
Don't know what Robin Hood has to do with anything.
失礼ね。私だって走るだけなら少しはこなせるわ。
How short is short? We need to know. Thank you, Type Moon. That was great. Loved it. I learned so much. Now the real thing we want to know: what the fuck is a Ploy kickshaw? You're gonna hear me moving around a lot this recording if you can hear my chair on the ground.
こんちは。日課の
I got
魔
my
王地をこな
tea
し、
kettle behind me.
さっそうと円に降り立つ青い影。
Who's texting me? Better not be anything important. Cool. Yep. Don't care.
さしずめ鳥は舞い降りたというところっすか。今回はここア
Any
リスさん
reason
が指定
we're
した特設会場でレクチャーを始めるんすけど、
at a what looks like kindergarten playground?
ここどう見ても普通の園っすよね。アリスさんはど
Are
こ
we
に
gonna have to call the cops?
遅かったわね、ロビン。出演者としての自覚はあるのかしら。
はっ、声忘れども姿はなしっす。ここには園児しかいないというのに、アリスさんはどこに？
ここよ。
Oh, that's where this comes from.
なぜなにプロイ。
Is your tailbone okay?
なぜなにプロイ。なぜ黙っているのかしら、ロビン。
There's not really much to say. Just soaking it all in.
別に何でもないっす。自分的には何の違和感もなかったところが余計怖かっただけっす。さすがマイ天使であるところのアリスさん。何を着てもやばいぐらい似合うっす。ほんとバイヤー。
Is there a reason for this?
ところで、
This costume change?
素朴な疑問なんすけど、ここで何を？
Is this like your hobby? What you do on your days off?
マンネリズムは良くないでしょ。おまけコーナーだからって素材を使い
Doing
回
age
すの
play?
は
It's not really
私
my
の美学
thing.
に反するわ。なんとか道場じゃあるまいし。
だから場所を変えたっすか。なるほど。それはおおむね理解したっす。青子さんもびっくりの浪費家ぶりっす。でも自分スモックよりワンピの方が好みなんすよね。ドレスみたいなの、女神っぽいの。いや、スモックがダメという話ではなくてっすね。あくまでイメージの問題。絵画にした時の説得力。
I have no idea what you mean, but sure.
森と鳥と少女みたいな。あ、ほら、鳥と園児じゃ園児のインパクトが強すぎて鳥にフォーカスが当たらないっつうか。
いけない。歌詞作りの途中だったわ。
ナチュラルに無視。
That's what that pot
と
is?
ころでアリスさんは普段何をやってるっすか？青子さんは生徒会、シャバゾウはアルバイト、アリスさんは
That's what you do when you're just at home alone all day?
見ての通りよ。時間があればプロイを作っているわ。
わあ、まんま童話の魔女のイメージっす。 プロイって鍋で作ってたっすか。
Is it like self-eating?
この匂いはチョ
Electric?
コレート。まさかプロイってお菓子だったんすか。
あなたね、プロイのくせにプロイの仕組みを知らないの。気づきたくはなかったけれど。
Can't know
や
everything.
っぱりただの鳥だった。
Like asking a person how like every single aspect of their body ticks.
そのあたり自分でもよくわからないっす。でもプロイの仕組みはわかるっすよ。なぜならこれからアリスさんが海より深く空より広くかっちょいい説明してくれるからっす。
A gloss deeper in a housemaid's knee and broader than the skies above.
本編で説明している通りよ。以上。
Robin, you're hurting my head. This is why I can't deal with fucking British people.
このコーナーの根底を崩す一言っすね。
何か意見があって？
ナイス。でもせめて概要だけでもレクチャーしてほしいっす。これじゃあこのコーナーなんとか同情以下っすよ。
Mm-hmm.
それは避けたいわね。
I mean, it's pretty low bar, but
これがプロイキッシャーの綴り。これだけで説明になると思うのだけど、どう？
プロイキックシャー？
キックシャーの句はほとんどサイレントよ。西欧圏の子供のおもちゃ、子供騙し、軽蔑的に珍しいものといった意味ね。
didn't know that. Neat.
あ、知ってるっす。
It's more like kickshaws.
変人の意味でも
プロイも同様に西欧圏のおもちゃで、こっちは戦争ごっこに使われるもの。子供の教育用玩具の総称ね。戦略、戦術の俗語でもあり、スコットランドだとない意味もあるけれど、それは忘れて。
Okay.
この2つの単語を無理やりつなげたのがプロイキッシャーなんすね。もしかしてアリスさんオリジナル？
I mean, now that you explain it, I can kind of get the definition, but
私の母に伝わっていた
there was,
独自の魔術系統よ。
no better terms to use.
魔術協会に公開して権利と利益を得るなんて低俗なことはしていないから。
まあ公開したところで
Even
ア
if
リ
you
ス
did, I
さん
don't
に
think
し
you'd
か
get
扱
many
えないんですけ
kickbacks
どね。
with a name
マイ
like
ンス
that.
ターの血に縛られてるっす。
あなた、本当はちゃんと分かっているんじゃないの？
すまないっす。今何言ったのか忘れたっす。自分。
マインスターというのは何？
マイ女神っす。アリスさんの母君っすね。あと純潔の魔女とかいかにもなセカンドネームがあったっす。
Well, if Alice got her personality from her mother, I can see why.
でも母君ミーハーだったんすよね。流行り物に弱いというか、ルイス・キャロルの大ファンでもあったっす。魔女は自分の代
Yeah, not
で
the most original
先代
names
から
in the
残
world.
されたプロイを自分用にチューンナップするっすよ。母君キャロルにハマってたからあの始末っす。金を犯した時もノータイムで名前はアリスにしましょうなって微笑んだぐらいっすから。
呆れた。少女趣味の塊だったのね、
Mm-hmm.
あの人。
何言ってるっすか。
It's like naming
シ
your
ャバ
kid
像が書いて
fucking
くると
Naruto.
必ず目を覚ますアリスさんも負けてはいない。
次回のレクチャーはプロイキッシャー個別にしましょう。それじゃロビン、お店の予約をしておいて。それが済んだらチョコレートの湯煎、それが済んだら鏡の磨き、
It's gonna be pretty hard for a bird to do that.
それが
No
済ん
opposable
だら
thumbs makes things tricky.
そうね、電柱にでもぶつかって盛大に死んでちょうだい。
いつも通りってことっすね。アリスさんなん
You do that
か
often?
きついっす。
私本来はこういうキャラよ。本編では面倒だから黙っているだけ。
面倒って何がっすか。
あなたのような物の知るのに いちいちカロリーを
That
使
beep
う。
scared me. I was like, is
それ
my
だけの
fucking
価値
kettle
があると
overheating?
思って。
たまんないっす。自分グリコのキャラメルイカだったっすね。でも
I liked you more when you were just a
舐
bird.
めてほしいっす。
そうね。それでも死なないか、一度試してみましょうか。
ノータイムで丸かじり。やっぱりプロイってお菓子なんす。おめえ。
I've lost brain cells. I was gonna say that was educational, but I don't think we learned anything there. Well, moving on. Back to the main story. December, the month where even monks were busy at work. It was the culmination of the year. Perhaps due to all the put-off tasks that had built up through the seasons, the month always seemed to pass by in the blink of an eye. It was a day like any other day in September. December. I saw the S's in fucking Scar Red and December, and they just fucking merged together in my brain. Though none of them were any wiser to what others were doing. Aoko, Alice, and Sojiro had spent the day attending to their own affairs. Oh, that's hot. Suppressing the urge to murder someone, her terrifying voice boomed across the room. It's not quite what that line read was, but if you say so. The sunroom was often used to dine in when the weather was nice, since it overlooked the courtyard. It was a room decorated with high-quality furniture and upholstered befitting a historic Western-style mansion. The fusion of Chinese Chippendale? Okay, Chippendale aesthetics and traditional English Georgian elegance caused even Aoko, a commoner, to think twice about doing anything unaristocratic on the grounds. Truthfully, she was sickened by the flagrant waste of money, but none of it was paid for out of her own pocket, so she could have cared less what the purchaser spent their money on. 3 unbelievably out-of-place offerings sat atop the lavish sunroom's table, as if enshrined. In stark contrast to the room, they appeared like meals prepared by aliens.
Sojiro, これなんか新しい冗談。
Well, looks fine to me. Aoko's trembling fist clenched and unclenched as she questioned the one responsible for today's menu. The clock struck 9 in the evening. The chef in charge nodded dutifully, eager to explain.
これはうちの会社の新製品。パチモン臭いが中身は本当にパチモンだと木の実が言ってた。
What do you mean fake?
でも俺は本物よりいいと思う。
Like, it tastes like a Chinese food thing, but it's not real Chinese food? What do you mean by fake?
そんなことより評価すべきは社内販売なんで1個40円を切る低価格だ。すごいぞ。
Yeah, that's a good deal.
卵をつけても60円とか。
The lackluster chef seemed pleased with himself as he boasted. Aoko wanted to grumble that the real steal was her appetite. I mean, yeah, it does kind of look like just fucking brick ramen with a raw egg on top.
そう、よかったわね。
Again, something I would make.
ところで、今日の夕飯はどこにあるの？
The chef thought for a second or two, then clapped his hands together in revelation.
青崎、そんなに食べると太るよ。
つまり、これが夕飯だって言い張る気なのね、あんたは。
言い張るも何も、これ以外用意していない。
The two stood there, glaring at each other. Aoko gave off an air that she would rather die than eat his food, while Sojiro was convinced she would capitulate eventually. So confident that he even considered chiding her about being so picky. As usual, the two cannot see eye to eye. And as usual, I cannot speak properly without fucking stumbling on my words.
お姫様みたいなこと言うんじゃない。だいたい今日の夕食代はこれで3名様200円未満なんだぞ。
I would eat that every day if that's all it cost. Sojiro puffed his chest out at his penny-pinching prowess. Alice altered her gaze between the two quarreling roommates and the strange food before her, which she had also never seen before. She remained a mere bystander in all this.
信じられない。一人60円の食事ってあんた一体いつの生まれよ。このご時世、新しくできた牛丼屋ですら贅沢に原価上げてるわよ、バカ。
青崎、1ヶ月の食費が3万円だけであんな好き勝手な食生活をしていたら、俺が君たちに殺される前に全員が飢え死ぬと思うんだ。確かに
Managing your finances is important. Sometimes that means eating some dubious things.
グラム700円から肉は種類が変わるんだって感動した。生協の果汁 100% ジュースだってちょっと本気でバカにできるもんじゃないと反省したよ。けどあれが3日続いたらこの家はどうなってしまうんだい？
Sojiro was making perfect sense, for once. Fortunately, neither Aoko nor Sojiro noticed the silent stare of disapproval coming from Alice.
その時はその時よ。それにね、昨日みたいなのはめったにないの。アリスはあんたの料理に触発されて柄にもなく頑張ったみたいだけど。
With Aoko's words, Alice closed her eyes. She might have been trying to quell her anger.
信じられない。じゃあ今までどんな生活してたんだ、青崎たちは。
Barely.
その時はそれぞれで何とかやってたわ。飢え死に一歩手前ぐらいいい精神修行じゃない。
Her brazen response left him speechless. Though a story for another time, Sojiro remembered a warning from a certain vice president who was complaining about a certain president insistently bugging him to take her to lunch at the end of the month. But that was neither here nor there.
そんな昔のことより今のこと。前に見せたあの腕はどこに行ったのよ、宗十郎。あれを見込んで今日の夕飯を任せたっていうのに。
Out of everything, that seemed to be what ate at Aoko the most. The stir-fried yaki udon he had prepared previously had been very well received. They'd even melted away Aoko's morning grumpiness with one bite. However, Sojiro had not seen fit to tell them that it was one of the only dishes in his limited repertoire. For a bachelor, the ability to cook is as close to a superpower as one could get. Yeah, when it comes to cooking for me, I just tend to make like one main dish, like 0 side dishes. So if I'm like, I'm gonna have chicken for dinner today, guess what? Only like 2 chicken breasts. Like no sides. 15 years into the future, it would likely become a highly desirable trait. Regardless, that misunderstanding had led Aoko and Alice to overestimate Sojiro's culinary talents. Her ire finally made sense to Sojiro.
わかった。自腹を切るから出前を取ろう。作るにしても材料がないからな。その代わり、それは回収する。
Aoko basked in her victory. It was then, after seeing Sojiro's face as he went to fetch the delivery menu, that Aoko realized her misreading of him. What annoyed Aoko the most was the fact that such little effort was put into dinner. But to Sojiro, this dinner had not been about cutting corners, but rather about a meal he had legitimately wanted to try. Aoko ruminated on how it could possibly pass for food for someone raised in the mountains. And then...
アリス、何してるの?
Aoko noticed Alice standing near the table, holding one of the bowls tightly.
もうそれはいいんだってば。
She wants it. Let her have it.
宗十郎に返してきちんとした出前にしましょう。
Despite Aoko's words, Alice stood her ground, firmly clutching the bowl. In fact, she seemed to be embracing it.
これ、私のだから。
Alice's faint voice drifted across the sunroom. And just like that, the night's menu had been decided by majority rule. Alco's shoulders sank in disappointment at her lot that evening. Come to think of it, Alice was always peculiar about things she deemed were hers. It was morning, and there were 10 days left in December. While the rest of the city was preparing for Christmas festivities, Sojiro headed to his part-time job. Though it looked like it could snow at any minute, the tree-lined streets were bustling with people. These days were particularly merry. Students on winter break spent their days hanging out with friends while they counted down the days until seasonal holidays. A flashy banner for Christmas cakes, huge advertisements adorning the building fronts. The station plaza bustling with pop-up stalls. From among the crowd in the heaving district, Sojiro stepped into a phone booth. Safe from the winter wind, the inside seemed warmed by comparison. The thought that it would actually be nice to have one in the mountains crossed his mind as he inserted a coin into the phone. He dialed the number from memory, his hand moving on its own. After about 5 seconds, the phone began to ring. Another 5 seconds, another ring. 10 seconds had passed. He gazed through the window at the various signs on the surrounding buildings and marveled at the sheer number of people out and about so early. The number he dialed was that of the Tobimaru Tsukiji. There was no "the" in there. The Tsukiji name was well known in Misaki as a distinguished land-owning family going back generations. Incidentally, their residence was located in the neighboring town of Yashirogi. The ringtone was finally replaced by the kind voice of an elderly woman. After her polite greeting, she handed over the phone to Sojiro's target.
Ohayo, Tobimaru.
Oh, you sound great. He was still half asleep, or so it sounded to Sojiro.
一つ相談があるんだけど、いいか?
ああ、陽気に計らえ。
His response did not exactly inspire confidence to Sojiro, but he cut right to the chase. The vice president's pause was a long one. It was hard to read from this end of the receiver.
あのな、単純なことで俺を起こすな。いいか、宗次郎。仲が悪ければ遊びに行け。機嫌を取りたければいいとこ見せろ。で、それが合わなきゃ早めに手を切れ。
God, where's that from?
俺ができ
Is
る
that
アドバ
Rocky
イス
1?
はそんなもんだ。
I think it was the first Rocky. And then the second one, he actually took her to the zoo. And with a peace, Tobimaru hung up. May have been 10 in the morning to Sojiro, but after dealing with what seemed like a 6 o'clock Tobimaru, all he could do was accept his advice. He could say all he liked about the guy's tone, but deep down he knew that his advice was sound. After the phone ordeal, Sojiro finished up his shopping and returned to the mansion just before noon. He was greeted by the sight of Alco and Alice sitting in silent gloom. Though unsure of the circumstances, from the outside looking in, it seemed like the aftermath of an argument. It was similar to the calm after a violent blizzard accompanied by biting winds and stinging hail, or a similar atmosphere to the inside of an industrial freezer. It would not have been surprising to look up and see icicles hanging from the ceiling.
やっぱり、今日もか。
When aren't they? He felt like a zookeeper pained at seeing the raccoon and penguin at each other's throats. Don't know why they'd be in the same enclosure, but sure, man. He had seen this at his job at the zoo, where he was a cleaner. Sojiro found himself staring at them with a familiar forlorn look of the zookeeper. Needless to say, the silence meant they were not fighting at this moment. Dinner served as a respite from the infighting. Sojiro was oblivious to the circumstances surrounding the quarrel, but their day-in, day-out battles against the mysterious mage were clearly taking a toll.
もっとも、アリスはいつも通りだけど。
Facing a quiet and contemplative Alco, Alice was reading an old book, now sat on her lap, as she was accustomed to. The book seemed somehow heavier than the other ones.
ただいま。煮詰まってるな、ここんところ。
And no getting caught in the crossfire today. He asked them as he took off his coat.
煮詰まるぐらい事態が進んでるならまだ面白みもあるんでしょうけどね。今のご用よ。
It's more that they just ran out of ammo to shoot with. Without quite knowing what Aoko was getting at, Sojiro quizzically tilted his head. Told himself not to think too hard about it, but he could not entirely help it.
煮詰まってるってことはもうじき完成ってことでしょ。進展がないって意味合いなら行き詰まってると言うべきね。
Seemingly too preoccupied to scold Sojiro, Aoko waved her hand as though showing off an insect. But Sojiro being Sojiro.
じゃあ言い直して。いや、あれから進展はあったかい？
Sojiro was not willing to give up and held his ground.
宗十郎には関係ないわ。こっちの事情に関しては不可侵だって言わなかった？
Her response was calm, but sharp. Surliness was her weapon of choice, and today she seemed determined to swing it at Will.
もちろん聞いてる。
Damn, what the fuck did Will do to you?
お昼はまだだろ？
Sojiro chose to brush off Aoko's attitude. If Aoko's weapon was surliness, Sojiro's was blitheness. As he wielded just enough to make Aoko flinch.
どうしたの今日は？何かいいことでもあったわけ？
Sojiro shrugged his shoulders.
まだなんだ。じゃあ、ちょっと提案がある。
That's a bad sign. He said as he dug around in his pocket of his now hung-up coat. Aoko gave a puzzled stare, while Alice's ears perked up at how positive he sounded.
実は今日、給料日だったんだ。お金も入ったことだし、外に遊びに行こう。
He spoke with a warm smile as he removed his wallet from his coat pocket. The other two did not know what to make of it.
宗十郎。
She wanted to take exception to his bright mood, but found herself wrestling with the idea of being, reacted positively to it. She wrestled with the idea of reacting positively to it. Okay. After all, he's making a gesture of good faith to try to make things better with what little funds he had. The thought itself was not a bad one, and she wanted to accept his earnest goodwill, but there was always the chance that Alice would keep quiet until the slightest thing annoyed her, at which point she would dash all their plans. However, she was not in the mood to walk around town with either of the two, nor was the timing ideal.
悪いけど今忙しいの。暇になったら思い出してあげるからしばらく我慢して。
Alice seemed to give the same response, though wordlessly. Sojiro was not about to be held back by the sullen mood.
忙しいって、ここで黙り合ってるだけじゃないか。徹夜漬けの時、気分転換は必要だって言ったのは青崎だろ。
Yeah, you know, get up, walk around a little bit, maybe come back and think and look at your issue with at another angle, with a fresh set of eyes. Ooh, going to the aquarium? Sojiro spoke with unusual confidence as he drew 2 tickets from his wallet and slapped them on the table. First glance, they looked like advance tickets to a movie, but not quite. They were tickets to a famous aquarium. To get there, they would take a rapid train and subway to a city several times more modern than Misaki. Man, it's been a while since I've been to the aquarium. I think the last time I went was the one in fucking, down in Boston. Down in the fucking Hobbit kid. What was I saying? A city that housed the biggest shopping mall in the prefecture, set to open next year, as well as a multi-purpose aquarium big enough to stage international conferences and famous plays. Multi-purpose auditorium. I was about to say it'd be weird to be having conferences in at the fucking aquarium.
それと、夜はメシアンでカレーでも食べてくれ。
Saying that, he slapped 2 bills on the table as if he had struck it rich. Messian, why do I know that? Is that the curry restaurant CL likes to go to? At least the name's similar to me. From, I think it's brought up a couple times in, like, Kagetsu Toya. You fucking Nazi lore heads will let me know. I'm sure of it. It was Sojiro's turn to make dinner tonight, after all.
じゃあ、そういうことで。
Is that what he said? Yeah, at. Okay. Finished saying his piece, Sojiro returned his wallet to his coat pocket. It was then that Aoko realized what Sojiro meant by seeing you.
ちょっと待った。そういうあんたはどうするの
Oh,
よ
by be seeing you.
今日はアルバイト。
Ain't that depressing? Sojiro was almost too quick with his response, helping Aoko to see things for what they really were. Rather than for Sojiro's benefit, his gesture was instead an attempt to ease the tension that had built up between Aoko and Alice. Though vast, both girls would tell you it was an unnecessary gesture. However, for him to pay this much attention to the household, if anything, gave Aoko reason to reflect on her own immaturity. Aoko glanced over at the still-seated Alice. At the same time, Alice peeked up at Aoko from behind her book. They kept still, staring at each other.
私は構わないけど、今やれることは全部やってあるし。
そうね。そういうことならせっかくだし。
Mm-hmm. No sense looking a gift horse on the mouth. Alice stood up from the sofa, resigned to her decision. Sojiro watched on, satisfied smile upon his face. 20 minutes later, as Aoko and Alice were done getting ready, Aoko called out to Sojiro in the drawing room.
それじゃあ出かけてくるから、あんたもバイト。Sojiro?
Sojiro was crouched in front of the television, unaware that the two had entered the room.
もしかしてビデオいじってるの？
ああ、ちょうどよかった。青崎、これ。
As he turned to face them, he froze. What, your first time seeing them in casual wear? Or like, more gussied up than normal? And facing them only exasperated the problem.
私たちお言葉に甘えて出かけてくるけど、どうしたのよ一体。棚の後ろに落とし物でもしたの？
Sojiro appeared to have gone stiff. Aoko stared at him curiously. He's fucking frozen solid by your absolute territory. At least I think you're wearing like thigh highs. I can't really tell. We need to get a full sprite shot again. Though Alice silently nodded along with his bizarre reaction. She kept her thoughts to herself.
いや。なんかこう。
Looking good! Still gawking, his voice stuck in his throat. He was blissfully unaware that the shock he was experiencing was the direct result of his emotional state.
それじゃわからないってば。
Yeah, you're being weird.
まったく落ち着いてるくせ
I
に
mean, that's normal for you, but more than usual.
アリスに煙たがられても仕方ないっていうか。
Alice looked on in silence. He was not confused or in a daydream. That much he could tell. But this frozen look was by all accounts a first to Sojiro.
それで何かあったの？
ああ、いや。これなんだけど。
What do you mean this thing? Like what, a coax cable?
青崎、ビデオってどう使うんだ？
Shaking his head to regain his composure, Sojiro pointed at the VCR. The VHS player sat on the shelf beneath the TV.
何？タイマー録画でもするの？
Aoko walked over and crouched next to Sojiro in front of the TV.
いや、木の実からビデオを借りたんだけど、映らない。
You might not want to watch that when these two were around. If it came from him.
まずテレビの電源が入ってない。
With a click, the TV screen flickered alive.
次、チャンネルを外線に合わせて。
Fucking put it to channel 3.
あら、意外にも真っ黒。木の実くんのことだからテープ頭から録画してると思ったけど。
During this time period, videotapes were still rather expensive. Therefore, it was only natural for people to not want to waste a single second of the tape's 120-minute capacity.
割と趣味には気を使う性格なのね。じゃ、早送りっと。
Ako picked the small remote up and quickly pressed the button marked forward. The VCR beeped in protest. With several clicks and thuds, there was an empty whir from inside the machine.
壊してないぞ、多分。
Unless it's a fucking Betamax and you just shoved it into a VHS. The vast majority of people who said this were actually very prone to destroying electrical equipment, but that is a separate matter.
おまけに
Yeah, it's a mage
テー
thing.
プが入ってない。
As soon as the words left her lips, it all made sense.
テープ
Sojiro imagined adhesive tape, clearly confused.
宗十郎、木の実くんから何か渡されなかった？
渡されたけど、ほら、テーブルの上。
Yeah, you gotta put it in. Though she should have been used to it by now, she caught herself wondering if Sojiro was being stupid deliberately.
木の実くんがなんて言ったか覚えてる？
テープ貸してやるから、家に帰ったらビデオを見ろ、と。
Okay. Not the best
一番大
instructions.
事な言葉が抜けてたわけね。はあ、失望を通り越して怖くなるわ。あっさり順応しているように見えてこれだものね。
Yeah, it's gonna be a while before you can
どんな
just
毎日送ってんのよ、
Bluetooth
あんたは
link stuff together like that and watch it without actually putting it in. Exasperated, Alco fetched the tape in question. It was labeled Wild Animal Kingdom, African Adventure. Okay, I guess we can't trust it. Because Sojiro does like animals. To Alco, this knocked Hosuke Kinomi down a level on the rating file she kept within the student council. Why?
ね、
What you got
この
against
テ
animal
ープをデッキに
documentaries?
入れて再生すればいいの。爪は折ってないから録画ボタンだけは押さないようにね。
爪とは
It means you can record over the tape.
ここテープの側面にへこみがあるでしょ。これをカバーしているのが爪。これを切り取っておくともうそのテープは上書き録ができなくなるのよ。そうね、例えるなら授業のノート。
Yeah, it's being written on in pen.
大事なものだから消しゴムで消えないようにフィキサチーフをかけたっていうか、
I've
ヒュー
never
マン
heard
エ
of
ラーを
anyone ever
物理
doing
的に
that.
防止するアナログな防御法ってわけ。
Is that like a spraying on, like, laminating a document? But with a spray? Oh, that's weird. She inserted the tape into the VCR and handed the remote to Sojiro. Just a small interaction used up a fair bit of Aoko's patience. Completely ignorant of Aoko's feelings, Sojiro gleefully pressed the play button.
はあ、前から危なっかしいと思ってたけど。
Yeah, my man wants to watch the
まさかこ
hippos.
こまでとはね。時代錯誤に。あんた山で何やってたの？空手家じゃあるまいし、熊を倒す修行でもしてたとか言わないでしょうね。
Whether or not she knew this was rude, Sojiro glanced at her with disdain.
それはもしかして俺をバカにしてるのか
A little?
心外ね。事実バカにしてるんだけど。
Ako answered, unapologetically. On the TV, a crocodile's yawning mouth appeared.
そんなバカな話があるもんか。なんで熊を倒すために修行しなくちゃいけないんだ。
Sojiro turned towards the TV in a huff. Perhaps because of his rare outburst, as he turned face to face with the gaping maw of the crocodile on the TV, he fell backwards in surprise. Aquarium pursed her lips upon seeing this, delighted. It was relieving to see the boy disarmed.
けど青崎、この機械ずいぶん埃が積もっているけど、掃除はしていないのか？
私はあんまり使わないし、アリスは見ないから今までほっぽってただけよ。
Yeah, I mean, as long as the screen's like clear, who cares if it's got an inch of dust on the top?
ダメ元でトレーニング用に買ってもらったんだけど、飽きちゃった。イメージでどうにかできる問題じゃなかったっていうか。
Alco shrugged at her past superfluity? Yeah, that word, that big word. Superfluity? Yeah, sure, man. And Sojiro was led to believe yet another falsehood about modern life, that VCRs would go out of fashion.
それじゃあ留守番お願いね。
I mean, they will eventually, but most things do. It's just a matter of time and, like, you know, it'll just get replaced with something else.
バイト、本当はないんでしょ?
Naoko said, smiling as she walked out of the drawing room. Her grin was the cheap shot that left Sojiro speechless. As he scratched his cheek, he was reminded of how she was not someone to be trifled with. After watching the end of the drama between the other two, Alice made for the reception area as well. Left alone in the room, Sojiro took his seat on the sofa. Well, certainly not easy making everything run smoothly around these parts. Till they came back, he could enjoy his crocodile watching in peace. Yeah, dudes just like big lizards. They're cool to watch. They took the subway from Misaki for 6 stations. From there, they rode another 3 stops by express train. After about an hour, Naoko and Alice arrived at Arisaka Station. While Misaki City was a mixture of old and new architecture, Arisaka was a brand new town built in accordance with recent government ordinance. The idea of, like, new towns just fucking springing up is wild to my brain. It was as though an entire town full of tall buildings sprouted up in the middle of nowhere. It was near the end of December, in the middle of the winter break. Even the bustling plaza in Misaki was quiet compared to Arisaka in the evening. Whether its huge mall full of countless specialty stores or its crowded multi-purpose auditorium, there really was something for everyone here. For that reason, beyond its local residents, Arisaka Station was crowded with people from far and wide. Alice, what the fuck is that hat?
県内最大のコンサートホールらしいけど、中はどうなってんだろう。なんか周りのビルより背が高くない?
But no, what are you wearing? Looks like it's just like a fucking bandana wrapped around her head. They made their way to the aquarium, weaving through the crowds. Naoko might have been used to city life, but Alice was silently anxious. The people passing by must have thought this pale girl out of place, which Alice happened to agree with.
来年夏にはビッグアーティストも来日予定。で、ピンクトゥルーデが入ってない？ちょっと、これ日本初ライブよ、アリス。
Naoko exclaimed, overcome by excitement. This kind of pop rock band was right up Aoko's alley, but naturally, Alice did not seem very interested.
それよりセレモニーに予定されているポーランド楽団の方が驚きだと思うけど、随分とお金がかかっているようね。懲りない人。
Naoko cursed under her breath before hurrying them along. Underneath the construction map read, with the support of the Kuonji group. The aquarium they were looking for was on the top floor of a massive building. What? You're putting the aquarium on the top floor? Okay. Maybe it's because it was no longer a new attraction, or perhaps because it was the first floor cinema that drew the crowds. But with only a few people scattered around the entrance, the atmosphere inside was very calm. Not quiet, but desolate, and far removed from the hustle and bustle outside. Perhaps they were going for that museum-like vibe. Alice quietly caught her breath, staring in awe. Like a child seeing a circus for the first time. Her eyes were wide in anticipation and wonder. Again, the fucking Boston Aquarium. One of the best. You walk in, and it's just immediately the penguin exhibit. Just like you walk up to the railing, and then it drops like 15, 20 feet, and then there's the water and like the rocks and all the penguins swimming around having a good time.
宗十郎おすすめの物件は気難しいアリスさんのお眼鏡にかないましたか?
Yeah, probably wishes he was here with her instead of you. Alko found herself smiling as well. There was a certain joy in seeing Alice's wonderment.
別に屋上にある水族館が珍しいだけ。
According to the guide on the wall, the entrance to the aquarium was nearly as big as the Konji Mansion's foyer. The outdoor penguin show was apparently suspended due to the star penguin, Flippy, undergoing treatment for an injury. An unfortunate state of affairs, but one that did not stop Alice from continuing to read over the guide. Apparently, she was quite familiar with penguin shows. Then... said like someone who could not believe what they saw. Alice quietly whimpered, as if holding back a scream.
何々どうしたの？
Ako said, still looking at the floor plan. It was rare to see Alice getting this emotional outside the mansion. For some reason, she was trembling. Nothing seemed terribly off about the aquarium's offerings.
ゾウガメがいない。
Yeah. They're a protected species. Like Galapagos giant tortoise?
話が違うわ、青子。どうしてゾウガメの展示スペースがないの？
どうしてって、そりゃゾウガメぐらいになったらもうほとんど陸上生物だからじゃない？
Yeah, they're pretty terrestrial. Like, don't drop a fucking tortoise in the water, it'll fucking drown.
なんで？ペンギンはいるのに不公平よ。
Yeah, but penguins are more manageable.
イルカだって許せないわ。
It was a bitter pill for Alice to swallow. The idea that they did not have a giant tortoise, despite having a dolphin, had Alice's eyes hot with indignation.
ああ、言われてみれば確かに。ペンギンとイルカは定番なのになぜゾウガメだけ外されるのか。ちょっとした日常の落とし穴ね。
Alka said, certain something like a giant tortoise would be boring and unpopular. She was sensible enough to read the room, however, and kept her thoughts to herself.
アリス、こっち。
Apparently they taste really
チケットはあ
good.
るからそっちに並ぶことはないわよ。
Like like sailors would always bring them onto ships because, you know, they're big, they're easy to keep, and, you know, if you run out of other food, you can just eat them instead. I know it took a while for, like, European explorers to bring any back to the continent because they always just kept fucking eating them all on the boats. A few moments after the giant tortoise fiasco, presenting the tickets they received from Sojiro, they headed towards the once popular entrance. From the entrance gate, the corridor stretched into a dark hallway completely illuminated in blue. Figures and faces became mere silhouettes in the darkness. Not a darkness born from H-craft, but a man-made area of twilight. A world of shadow and blue, the only light being from the illuminated tanks. The two witches continued walking down the artificial ocean corridor. Water tanks like windows into hundreds of different worlds, each with their own separate temperature and environment. Snapshot of the same place at different times. Mesmerized by the refracting images of the ocean floor, conversation grew sparse.
そういえば、アリスの家ってあれだけ大きいのにプールとかないわよね。なんで？
呆れた。水槽を見て何を想像したのかは聞かないけど、必要ないものを欲しがるのはあなたの悪い癖ね、青子。
She's a girl of the modern age.
必要ないってことはないんじゃない？水遊びはこっちよりそっちの方が馴染み深いでしょうに。
Are they? I don't know.
あ、もしかしてアリス泳げない？
泳ぎの経験ぐらいあるわ。夏は湖で何度も遊んだもん。
I miss living near a lake. Back in my old place before I moved here, I was like a 2-minute bike ride from a decent-sized lake that I would go to in the morning for like my morning exercise. In the summer, I'd wake up at like 5 a.m. and bike down to the lake to swim for like an hour before getting ready for work. My doctor recommended it because I get really bad shin splints, so it gives me that like full-body cardio workout without destroying my legs.
私、
I miss it.
大型のセントバーナードにだって負けなかったのよ。
セントバーナードってアリスさんったらもしかして息継ぎとか苦手かしら？
この世で最も聞きたくない言葉の一つね。クロールとかバタフライとか。発明した人は半魚人になる。
You just doggy paddle? Freestyle it? Clank, clank, clank. Their pace was more delicate and solemn than a stroll along the beach. The conversation continued, but that was only particular for the time... But was only particular for being... The conversation continued, but was only particular for being in particular. What? But was only particular for being in particular. Am I having a stroke, or does that not make sense? Moving on. In here, the only thing to do was look at the blue screens.
でも驚いた。あんなにあっさり館の留守を任せるなんて。
No, he's watching his fucking crocodile movies.
考えなかった？
彼、そこまで考えなしじゃないでしょ。
Unless a certain fucking bird tricks him into it.
それならそれで手間が省けてせいせいした？
そうじゃなくて、一度交わした約束は破らないんじゃないか。
Yeah, good egg. That he was not. Ako nodded, her long hair waving back and forth. A certain gleam of surprise in her eyes. Onward they meandered to the next aquatic world. Clack, clack, clack.
ところで、水族館は初めて？
これで2度目。
You have friends?
友達と2人で行ったきりよ。
嘘、本当？
本当。6年以上も前。
あ、
まだイギリスにいた頃。
そうじゃなくて、友達の方。あんた、友人はいないって言ったじゃない。
Well, not anymore.
昔の話よ。私たち、同じ名前だったの。
Not weird at all.
それが縁でよく遊んでいたけれど、長続きはしなかったわ。
What can you do? That's how it is growing up.
そっか。あっちじゃそう珍しくない名前なのね、アリスって。
It's not
こっ
particularly
ちで言う
common,
ところの
actually.
涼子とか花子みたいなもの？
ええ。青子とか赤子とか、黒子とか白子みたいなものよ。
後半はみんな普通名詞なんですけど。
Well, it's an easy way to make a name. Just slap fucking co at the end. Boom. To each their own, a society of names. The swirling of the waters was dizzying, much like the hectic world of humans. Their hands swung back and forth as they walked out towards the next world.
そういう青子は、彼をどうするつもりなの？
Yeah, what, you gonna keep him under lock and chain forever?
どうって、今の一件を終わらせるまでおとなしくしてもらって、落ち着いたら忘却のルーン探して、なかったことにするだけでしょ？
それは、私に？
え？あ、うん、そうに決まってるじゃない。ところでこの魚綺麗よね。な
Nice
んか泳ぎ
deflection.
たくなってくる。
Just don't think about it.
アリス、来年の夏は海にでも行ってみよっか。
海って、あの海。
Well, there are beaches at lakes, but when most people say beach, they mean the ocean.
もちろん夏の海って言ったら灼熱の太陽と砂浜、水平線に沈む夕日ってね。
Oh god, speaking of the hot sun, I still have the tan line on my leg from when I got fucking fried last summer when I went kayaking up in Vermont. Like, I didn't expect to be out as long as I was, so my legs, red, fucking tomato red. And then they just completely bronzed after like a week or two. And I can still see the color difference between like my upper thigh and my lower thigh. One is like paper white because I'm a vampire who never goes out. And then the rest of it still has that tinge to it.
今年は行けなかったけど、来年は一緒に行かない？
I don't think it'll ever go away.
呆れた。でも、そうね。夏まで生きていられたのなら、そういうこともあるかもしれない。
Yeah, one thing at a time. Clack, clack, clack. The two girls journey to the next oceanic wonderland, mutually taking in the sights. The visitors to these winter waters had begun to leave, satisfied by their touring. The sound of their footsteps heralding their farewell. An hour into the wayfaring sea voyage, losing themselves in the maze-like corridors of seemingly endless exhibits, they somehow found themselves on the next floor. Ako had heard that the aquarium was situated on the top floor, and was shocked to find out there was yet another above it. It was likely by design that the actual top floor could only be accessed from within the aquarium. Moments of intrigue such as this were what attractions are made of.
アリス
Turning this way and that, she found Alice had disappeared. She had just been there, however, and Aoko took to looking for her. She soon found her nearby. Her white overcoat shone brightly in front of the dimly lit exhibit. She was staring motionless into the water tank. She almost looked to be staring through it, distracted by something.
どうしたのアリス気分でも悪くなった
Yeah, what, you looking at krill? Getting hungry? She spoke, hoping to snap her out of it. Alice's typical cold aura seemed to have all but left her.
珍しい魚でもいたそれ余り物を端に追いやりましたって感じの水槽だけど
Alice gave a non-committal response. It's kind of an uh-huh. Just looking at fish. Just vibing. Same. Just ahead of her gaze was a single shadow.
わおマンボウ
Oh, those are the big ones, ain't they? Alice remained motionless, unresponsive to Aoko's sarcasm. She stood in silence, watching the poor little fish, drifting listlessly in the tank where they put the fish that did not fit anywhere else, here at the end of the hall. To put it lightly, sunfish were not especially pleasant to look at. When looking at one, it begged the question of what direction evolution wanted to take with it. It looked like it swam using rudder-like fins on the top and bottom, but lacked the grace of other fish. To Aoko, its eyes, body, and strange movements made it an awkward creature. But
ねえアリスあっちの水槽見ないジンベエザメの回遊とか見目麗しいわよ
Alice, unmoved, fixated on the sunfish. It clumsily drifted about its tank, occasionally bumping into the glass as it turned.
青子この子泳ぐのが下手だわ
Well, yeah, it's a big fish in a tank. Alice extended her finger towards the glass, then retracted it, feeling childish.
いっか愛嬌だけはあるしねマンボウ
Yeah, they're goofy looking. Did not seem like Alice was going to budge. Resigning herself, Aoko stayed with Alice while she stared at the cushion-shaped fish.
へえマンボウってフグ目だったんだ何マンボウのメスは一度に3億個の卵を海中に放出する地上で最も多くの卵を産む脊椎動物
Lots of
で
caviar.
なるほど他の魚たちにとっちゃ格好の餌になるから多く産むことそれ自体が生存のための手段になるわけか
Though Aoko seemed taken in by the biological details of the fish, Alice couldn't have cared less. She was lost in the ebb and flow of emotions between wonder and woe with every clumsy bump of the fish into the glass. When out of nowhere, she softly spoke.
さっきの話だけど
さっきの話って何
Yeah, there's a lot of before.
彼について留守を任せるとかそういうの
It seemed like Alice had returned to her normal self, that cold aura. Wherever, inside the mansion or out, that stubborn chill that pushed people away was back.
私の気が変わったわけじゃないわ依然として彼のことはわからないものわからない人をどうやって信頼すればいいの
まあねでもじゃあどうして
青子のことはわかるわあなたはいつも正しい選択をする
Alright, a lot of faith you're putting in her.
青子を信じる彼の人間性は信じてもいい
That was true. She did not know Sojiro, nor had any intention to. But because of her trust in Aoko, she could trust in Aoko's decision to allow him to stay. It seemed Alice was challenging her own feelings. She said she could not trust someone she did not know. Or in other words, She wished to trust a person, and in order to do so, she needed to know more about them.
口にするのはなんだから突っ込まないけどね。それより何？そんなに私のこと信頼してくれてたの？アリス？
ええ。行為はともかく、信頼だけはしているわ。
You being reliable has nothing else to do with your personality traits.
だって共犯者でしょ。私たち。
Her white coat swayed to and fro. Just like that, their short excursion had come to an end. Straight ahead was the exit back to the real world. A step away from the exhibit was a step towards becoming better roommates.
優しい顔をしているのに、傷だらけね。
One last small whimper. And with that, she bid farewell to the lonely figure in the tank. The sun sets early during winter, falling below the horizon by 4 in the afternoon. Evening seemed to arrive at the mansion earlier than in the city.
なるほど。君の生態はよくわかった。
You'd think it'd be the other way around, like when you're up on the side of a mountain, unless it's, facing away, like they're on the eastern side, so that way the sun sets behind them. Ugh. But they're right, it does get dark in the woods early. Sojiro sat alone, sipping his warm tea in the chilly room. He relaxed on the couch, staring out the window, having had his fill of crocodiles. Once he sprawled out on the sofa, okay, I was right. I was gonna say the, but I saw there was no TH and I got very confused. But no, the sofa. His body refused to move. Maybe he'd had always wanted to try it. After 3 straight hours of crocodile watching, he wondered what it would be like to laze there for the remainder of the day, as he nervously checked over his shoulder. Just as he was considering taking the opportunity to nap until Aoko and Alice returned, an unfamiliar sound echoed through the halls of the mansion. Undergoing a sluggish evolution of his own, he rose from all fours to being bipedal. There was a knocking sound at regular intervals. The sound, distantly coming from the front door, was more familiar now. He had experienced it before during his days in the apartment.
新聞の勧誘か?
As he made for the foyer, Sojiro noted how impressed he was that they had hiked all the way up the hill, making it even more unlikely. The sound resounded eerily. Without a doorbell of any kind, visitors had no choice but to rap on the door using whatever they had in hand. My house was like that for a while, until some people tried to get a hold of me from work because I had gone home early because I wasn't feeling good. And when they tried to reach me in the morning to see like if I was okay, I didn't pick up because I was like passed the fuck out because I had taken like a bunch of like cold medicine. So they're like, all right, someone go check on our boy. So they drove over. At old house, no doorbell, so they're knocking on my door. Didn't hear anything. They tried calling me. I still wasn't picking up. So they're like, oh shit, is he like okay? So then they found that my AC unit to my window wasn't properly screwed in because I'm lazy like that. So they're like, fuck, we need to like make sure our dude's not dead. So they called the cops and told the cops what was going on. So they came over too, and they're like, hey, we're gonna break in. We're just make sure that's cool with you. And they're like, whatever, yeah, sure. So then they crawled in through my window and they opened the door for the cops because now it's like a wellness check. And I got woken up by fucking someone walking up my stairs and banging on the wall going dung 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 dung. X city that I live in, PD. And I'm like, what the fuck? I come down and I see my supervisor in my living room with the cops. I'm like, hello? Like, what's going on? They're like, oh, fucking thank God. I'm like, what? That was a very confusing morning. But now I have a doorbell. Moral of the story, buy a doorbell. It would take an iron-clenched fist to produce that kind of sound. From his position in the hall, the front door looked like an ornately built fortification. The strong double doors looked as though they could withstand any onslaught of blows. They rattled in protest to the repeated knocking. Try as this person might, it seemed no amount of enemy attack could breach the castle gate. But Sojiro, having experience selling newspapers himself, announced himself.
Hi, 今開けます.
He knew what it was like to be in their shoes, so was unsurprised by their unwillingness to surrender. Hi. Hi, Toko.
Oh.
There stood the second surprise today. Sojiro looked speechless and motionless. The young woman hardly looked the part of a newspaper salesman. Standing in the courtyard against a backdrop of the dusk horizon, she looked more suited to being a resident of this Western-style mansion, at least more so than Sojiro. Do you want to put some pants on? She had a dainty frame, but a striking presence nonetheless. Damn, fucking, you stacked like that? Damn, that fucking coat really emphasizes it, huh? She was a little shorter than Sojiro, but tall for a woman. Her light green clothes were delicate yet flashy, and clearly something out of a foreign fashion. Bold, but prim and proper. Though slightly loud, her appearance spoke of strength and confidence. The kind of woman not to be trifled with that Sojiro knew all too well. Only, unlike the ones he knew, this woman appeared more friendly than intimidating. Perhaps it was her short hair that made her look approachable. Bright and brown, it stopped just above the nape of her neck. Sojiro, yet to say a word, thought what a shame it was to be so short. She looked at him and offered a smile. Despite looking older than Sojiro, this made her appear impish and cute. Sojiro knew himself to be made of stronger stuff than the fall for cute smiles, but found it more than a little suspicious. At any rate, it was rude to stare for so long.
どちら様でしょうか?
God, I got like fucking static interference in my headset. Is it gonna stop? No? Whatever, I grounded myself in a one-way. I guess I might have been building up too much of a static charge. He asked shyly, steeling himself. To which she replied,
こんばんは。青子います?
She smiled as she used Aoko's first name with a sense of familiarity. She's just trying to disarm you.
青崎はいないんです。
She smiled again, this time deviously upon learning of Aoko's absence.
それじゃあ、クオンジさんも留守なんだ。
Oh, both cats away, huh? Sojiro looked perplexed. This was the first time he had heard Alice referred to by her last name only, and again, spoken with customary respect.
そっか。夜ならともかく、日中から二人で出かけるとは感心感心。形だけの雑居だろうと思ったけど、ちゃんとうまくいってるのね。
Debatable. Sojiro found himself nodding in response to her smile. Though it was clear she knew Aoko and Alice, she was giving him an uncomfortable feeling. Likely in her mid-20s, she did not appear that much older than he was. Behind her carefree tone and bright smile, she was clearly trying to hide something.
それじゃあ、帰ってくるにしても夜?
はい、終電前には帰ってくると思いますけど。
そう。ところで君、誰?
Roommate. Sojiro, ever so troubled by her forwardness, wanted to ask her the same. But, alas, who are you, was a question far too difficult for Sojiro.
すみません。誰かと言われてもよくわからなくて。とりあえず、今は
Circumstances are
留守番してま
complicated.
すけど、実は青崎の友人なんです。
A response with not an ounce of truth to it. The young woman's face lit up at what she believed was the boy's attempt to tease her.
へえ、 面白いこと言うのね、君。名前はなんて言うの？
静木宗十郎というのですが。
His shy answer made her giggle. Sojiro could not understand what he said that was so funny, but her laugh did not offend him. Rather than seeming derogatory, it came across as warm and affable. Then, after finishing giggling, she looked him straight in the eye and gave him a soft look.
いや、気に入ったわ。宗十郎くんだっけ？
Well, that's dangerous.
君には合わない名前だけど、それも暗示的で素敵だし。じゃあ、そういうわけで、お茶でも入れてくれない？
Gonna take your shoes off?
いや。
She stepped past him into the mansion and swiftly left him at the door.
うわ、呆れた。ほんと以前のまんまじゃない。せっかくこっちに持ってきたんだから、悪いところはリフォームしたものと思ったけど、何も柱の歪みまで再現しなくてもいいのにね。
She said, cheerfully inspecting the foyer. Sojiro still stood at the entrance. The clicking of her heels on the wooden floor jumped around as she moved towards the towards the drawing room.
こっちでしょ？今は。
Fuck, man, those are some leggings. Like, what, you got something to do after this? She disappeared from the foyer into the drawing room, oddly familiar with the layout of the house.
青崎かアリス、どっちかの先輩かな。
Sojiro muttered to himself, walking to the drawing room. He entered to see the woman walking around the room gleefully. Like a child seeing a park for the first time in ages, breathing in the nostalgia, twirling as girls are wont to do.
よく見れば、このテレビって。
A relatively new fixture. She stared at the television inquisitively, perhaps owing to the fact that she had never seen a 30-inch television before. Awkwardly, the TV was still displaying images of the wild animal kingdom. Sojiro wished he would have stopped the video before he answered the door.
もし。
He blurted out, attempting to regain his composure. He had many questions, but first he resolved himself to, at the very least, ask her name. With that, she turned to him with a cold look on her face. She glared at Sojiro over her glasses, her long and slender brow pointing at him, all as if to hint at a threat. A gaze that made him feel like he had chosen his words very poorly. Sojiro apologetically clammed up. The young woman moved in.
やだな、宗十郎くん。もしなんてかしこまって。私、
Well,
そんなおば
just
さんに
using
見え
proper
る？
grammar. She snickered. Her disapproving glare melted into a teasing smile. Of course not. It would be more accurate to say that she had an air of an older sister. Or at least, that is how Sojiro attempted to relay using only gestures, to which she grinned smugly.
よろしい。なら、そんな他人行儀な話し方はやめましょう。つまらないし、柄じゃないわ。
So, do those boots just like melt into your leggings? How does that work? Or are they just like really like stop at the ankle heels? It was hard to tell. She said, taking a seat on the sofa. Naturally and effortlessly, and without making a sound. Her posture and movements exuded sophistication. And she required no words to instruct him to hurry along and make the tea. Without pressing her further, Sojiro headed to the kitchen. He figured she would not talk until he had had some tea. He chose the fauchon he was forced to replace once before, after using it without permission. Since she was here to see Aoko, he would serve her tea in Aoko's Severez, I don't know how to pronounce that, teacup. Into the cup as blue as the ocean depths, he carefully poured the tea before returning to the drawing room. Ooh, that's a pretty cup. I need to get a cup like that. I just have like a like ceramic mug that I think was made in like the 50s in Japan for like, they were originally produced for like export to like the American market, but due to like whatever fucking shipping reasons, they never left the country until like a decade ago. So they were all sitting in a warehouse. And on the sticker, it has like on the bottom, it has a sticker that says like made in occupied Japan. Gently, he placed the teacup on the table and looked at the woman. It's a really nice mug. I had another one that was nicer, but someone broke it at work. I left it in one of the cupboards above our computer cabinet, where everyone just tosses some of their stuff. And when they went in to take out their like reflective belt, it like snagged the cup and pulled it off and fucking shattered it on the floor. That was depressing. I really liked that cup. Despite being told otherwise, Sojiro could not help but stand on ceremony. He would actively have to try not to. Displeasure or disappointed, she glared at him once again. I mean, displeased, not displeasure. Yeah, it gets confusing. She said not at all upset as she slowly raised the cup to her lips to take a sip. It was the kind of movement Aoko or Alice might react to by berating the boy, but the woman chose to brush it off with a smile. Though he did not realize it at the moment, he would soon enough understand that some people did appreciate his efforts, regardless of whether they were misguided. Yeah, what the fuck are those shoes? How do I get the screen to go away? Is it this? Yeah, there's no definitive end to like where her shoe begins. Oh, that's a weird style. I mean, it looks good, but just don't think too hard about it, I guess? Sojiro tilted his head, noticing a slight familiarity to the manner of her speaking. Almost as though he had been talking to someone he had seen before. Looking at her sitting on the sofa, forgotten memories began to rise to the surface. Noticing his reaction, she became visibly delighted.
思い出した?私もちょっと驚いたわ。青子を訪ねに来たらいつか見た君が出迎えてくるんだから。
Now that she was laughing, Sojiro remembered everything. He'd only seen her for an instant, but there was no mistake it was her. It had been her, the woman smoking the long cigarette winning at the pachinko parlor.
あの時は私もショックだったな。宗十郎くん、目が合うなりいきなり逃げ出したでしょ。そんなに私ってこわもてなのかしらって、あの日の晩は真剣に悩んだんだから。
She clearly enjoyed the memory. She was right. He mistook the shadow he had seen in the park for this woman and ran, though he had learned it was Aoko a day later. Even though it was clearly a case of mistaken identity, he now knew why he had thought them one and the same. Just don't tell him that to either of them. Finally, he had realized the true identity of the woman before him. He chided himself for not realizing it sooner. Just as he was about to say it, she held up her hand to interrupt him. She pointed at him like she was aiming a gun.
ごめんなさい。君の仕草がちょっと可愛くてからかいが過ぎちゃった。
Not like she will shoot you.
自己紹介が遅れたけど、私は青崎瞳子。率直に言うと、青子の実の姉ってわけね。
Now that figures. Should have known. With a smile that could impart courage to any that glanced upon it, Toko looked just like how Sojiro imagined Aoko would in the not-too-distant future. It all made sense. While Aoko was earnest and diligent, Toko was shrewd and playful.
あの子が困ってるって聞いてね。 いい加減忠告してあげる気ではるばるやってきた
Oh,
わ
I'm
けな
sure
の
you
で
did.
した。
Alco's sister chuckled coyly while sipping her tea. Lured by her charm, Sojiro sat on the sofa as well. He felt like he could relax a little now that the initial shock of receiving an unexpected guest had subsided. Just like that, it was almost 5 in the afternoon. Alco and Alice would be returning from their excursion soon. This was Misaki City's only subway line. I almost said I don't even know what I almost said there. Only half a year had passed since its opening, and at the end of the fairly new platform, there the two girls stood. The time was 6:30 in the evening. They had been idling for around 20 minutes since returning from Arisaka, and had yet to return to street level.
青子
There was a hint of irritation in Alice's voice.
ちょっと待って。あともう一回だけ。ね。
Alco begged Alice, hands together, trembling from the cold. It was rare to see her act this childish. There was no doubt Tobimaru would consider this behavior more strange than cute if he were here. From the end of the platform, Alco peered into the creeping darkness to where the tracks led.
あなたの趣味変わってるわ
Yeah, what? Do you like trains? Alice muttered, sitting on the bench with forbearance. Any other day, and she would have been fine heading back herself, but today she was in a good mood and decided to humor Alco. If possible, she would have liked to return in still good spirits, as such spells of positivity, for her at least, tend to dissipate sooner rather than later. Eyes calmly closed, her placid demeanor conveyed her feelings well enough. Thus, the two of them waited on the platform alone for the subway train they had no intention of riding. The recently opened subway. High prices and low familiarity made for relatively new passengers coming from Misaki City. Relatively few. Thanks to the low foot traffic, the platform was still as good as new. There was something primeval about a subway devoid of people. It was a picturesque of tranquility, free of human interference. Lifeless and silent. A land unmolested by living creatures, except rats, where only speechless organisms dwelt. The artificial fluorescent lights highlighted. It was a cave where the light ended and the shadows began. Riderless vessels disappeared into the dark. The platform wedged between two tracks like a jetty stretching out into a subterranean sea of black. In this place, far removed from the world above, Alco waited with eyes closed for the familiar rumble. It was Alco who proposed that they so much tease, too much alliteration, that they delayed their return and wait on the platform. The reason was simple. Alco Ozaki enjoyed the soothing sound of passing subway trains.
今年はもうライブハウスに行けそうもないし、これぐらいのわがままはいいでしょ
Wait, you like the rumble? She said to Alice, her eyes still closed. Alice did not even nod as 3 trains had already passed following her decision to stay with Alco. Silence again. Alco waited for the next train with anticipation. Alice sat and stared at the wall of the subway patiently. According to the display board, the next train was due to arrive in 5 minutes. From the dark tunnel came wind and rumbling. A purposefully placed bounded field now surrounded the platform. There was no sign of any station personnel, and entrances and exits were few and narrow. With the lack of bystanders, the field was hardly necessary. Suddenly, 6 figures appeared in front of the stairs leading to the surface, all sharing the same face. Motionless, and with smiles like a crescent moon, they stared at Alco and Alice.
鈍っているにも程があるわね
Alice let out a quiet sigh.
どうかしたアリス
どうも何もこの駅で降りたのはあなたと私だけなの気づいていた
そりゃあね相変わらずここの地下鉄ってば利用客が少ないって
My god, that is such a short skirt for, like, the fucking end of December. You're gonna freeze to death. Aoko cut herself off by tutting in annoyance.
で、そういうアリスはいつ気がついたの？
憂鬱なことにたった今よ。青子ばかり責められないわね。あなたと私が一つならこんなこともなかったのに。
つまらない例え話は口にしない。
Never moving or making eye contact, the words stoic and calm. In contrast, the figures near the stairs began to stir. They advanced in unison on all fours, as though regressed to a quadrupedal state. Like human-sized ants, one after another, they swarmed forth. The din of the clattering came not from the platform entrances, but from the subway tunnel as well. Ooh, gross! At a glance, they numbered at least 30 strong. The creeping sound of skittering echoed off the subway walls.
信じられない。これだけの自動人形集めたらうちどころかフランスの一等地も買えるんじゃない？
I mean, not that anyone would want to.
ええ。もっともこんな出来じゃ買い手は見つからないでしょうけど。
なんだ、ガラクタはガラクタか。
One of the horde leapt forth in response to Aoko's insult. It was a sudden charge, like the hurtling of a dump truck. Alice remained still. As though expecting the attack, Aoko swung her right arm in an arc. The blue missile of light was easily repelled. Her magic bullet, Snap, had little to no effect against the puppets. They scrambled over each other like frogs, heads jerking and twisting in search of prey.
全部で30か。悪いけど、一人でやらせてもらうわよ、アリス。このま
As she spoke to Alice, who was still standing next to the bench, Aoko stepped forward towards the edge of the platform. From the myriad of regrets she still had from the amusement park, the House of Mirrors stung the most. She was caught off guard in the previous engagement with those puppets. With adequate preparation and confidence, and Alice's backup, she would not let that happen again. Igniting her magic crest, she would have revenge and be vindicated from...
私の後ろまで下がって青子。そこにいたらあなたまで食べてしまう。
It took Alice raising one finger to the sky for Aoko to stop.
待って、アリス、それは。
In the depths of the ocean black, the bells of night chimed out. The jetty, as if embraced by a sea god like Poseidon or Watasumi, was awash with white particles.
青子のやり方じゃ跡が残るでしょう。もうじき次の電車も来るし。
Yeah, we don't got time, you know. If we had all day, you know, you could take care of it, but, you know, we got a timetable to follow. From beyond the white veil, her form blurred and stretched upward on tiptoes. Like a melancholy ballerina. The figures surrounded the prima ballerina bristled in response to the strange aura. Though puppets were inhuman mystical vessels, they had a fair more reason to fear Alice than they did the human Aoko. They began to flee. Whoever their master was, they sensed enough danger in order to retreat. However, it was too late. The lead dancer in this ballet had them captivated, unable to move, as if their Achilles tendons had been severed.
それに気分を台無しにされたのはあなただけじゃないわ。
She removed her black glove. Unlike her mansion demeanor, her cool aura had morphed into a fierce, biting cold one, freezing all in their tracks. Gloves floated to the ground. The white haze grew even thicker. The massive shadows cried out for mercy.
さあ、ごっこ遊びをしましょう。
Within the dense, nebulous mists, a dark fairy tale manifested. From inside, the only thing seemingly real was the sound of her voice, a macabre melody. Feasting, grinding, crunching. At last, the final puppet fell. On the walls, on the floor, on the ceiling. The tragic sounds of their demise filled the air. Goddamn fucking Silent Hill level in here. Their twisted shrieks plastered the subway surfaces indelible? Indelible blood, like stains. All 30 of the puppets, promptly yet slowly as though to savor their taste, were completely devoured by the mystifying monster. All save one appendage, a lonesome severed arm on the platform.
持ってきてたのあれ
Alko spoke sideways to Alice, making no attempt to hide her disgust. A beast of the fog. One of her great 3 Ploy kickshaws, the Meister's Rosehound, Wandersnatch. I know we just learned that the k in like kickshaw is supposed to be like silent, so it's more like shaw, but I'm not saying that. It was a name carrying immense violence and devastation. Alko's words stung, since Alice was the one harboring its true form. The great 3 Ploys wielded terrifyingly powerful curses. It was one thing to carry it around for self-defense, but keeping it a secret from her companion did not amuse Alko in the slightest. It was like going out to eat with a grenade in your pocket. That's just normal American things. You get used to it.
まあ次からは一言お願いね
Gotta stay strapped, you know.
他のプロイ
Never
な
know
らいい
when
け
things
ど
can go south.
今のやつだけは別よできれば洋館限定にしてほしいぐらい
悪かったわ。でも最近何も食べさせてなかったから。
Yeah, I need to go out and get his exercise. Alice walked slowly along towards the puppet arm rolling along the platform. What had just occurred made perfect sense. He needed to eat, so she let it eat. But the beast could not be seen, and there was no bloodshed on account of the victims being made of plastic.
青子、ちょっと。
Alice said, picking up the puppet arm.
これを見て。私たちは今まで相手を人形使いと思っていたけど。
What do you mean?
正確。わかる？この人形たちは新しすぎる。この子たちが作られたのは17世紀以後よ。それはそれで信じがたいことだけど。
Oh yeah, if they're plastic.
なんですって
Though sounded contradictory, automata typically performed better with age. After the 17th century, as a magical concept of using puppets and mannequins declined, automata suitable for combat became harder to produce. In recent years of automata manufacturing, even low-length familiars to be used in training could be produced inexpensively and with relatively decent quality. Therefore, it was common for modern puppet masters to collect parts made before the 17th century and use them in their creations. The high price of automata often came not from the combat abilities, but the rarity of the parts used to make them. However, the enemy mage controlling these puppets used them as fodder, as if they grew on trees. The only conclusion that could be made, therefore, was that their current opponent was a spoiled, rotten upstart mage with no territory of their own to control. So Alice and Alko imagined, anyway.
それともう一つ。この構造は三崎氏の結界に似ているわ。まるで自分たちこそがこの町を守る兵士だって主張するぐらい。
Alice presented the evidence to Alko, who was waving away the fog from around her. She felt profound surprise, then rapid realization.
そういうことなのね。
Ako murmured to herself, violently hurling the arm against the platform. Her face twisted with anger and a hint of fear.
惜しげもなく骨董品を出してくると思ったら、そもそも出し惜しむほどのものじゃなかったわけか。確かにあの女なら町の結界にも反応しないし、私の欠点も知ってて当然。視点の退去だって簡単にやってのけるわよね。
Insider job.
だって。
Alice quietly looked on in bemusement at Aoko's furious rambling.
青子、これを作ったのはそうなの？
ええ、昔から物を作ることに関しちゃずば抜けていたからね、あの人は。
Yeah, you're more in the deconstruction category than the, construction. Aoko glared at the severed arm, furious at its creator and herself for taking so long to figure out it was her.
でも、ようやく合点がいった。
Yeah, it really makes sense why one of those puppets had your fucking face on it, doesn't it?
認めたくないけど、今回の敵は間違いなく私の姉貴。この土地の元継承者、青崎東子その人よ、アリス。
Oops. The desolate subway platform returned to silence. Aoko's words lingered uncomfortably in the air. No, I wanted to learn more about crocodiles. A short time ago, at the Kuonji estate, the videotape finished playing. The VCR had automatically stopped playback, forgoing the need to hit the stop button to avoid the static storm. What remained on screen was the reflection of Sojiro and Toko Aozaki sitting opposite each other in conversation.
秘密を知られたから先生なしの直接攻撃。ね。怪獣作を考えもしないのは青子らしいけど。
It was hard to tell if she was being patronizing or indifferent. Toko Ozaki took a sip from her cup as she listened to Sojiro's story. She would have savored the anecdote about the amusement park kerfuffle if it were not for the poor excuse for a cup of tea in her hands.
ありがとう。参考になったわ。ここしばらく青子とは顔を合わせていなかったから、あの子がどんな風に成長したかなんて想像するしかなかったし。
Manipulative.
それと一応肉親として謝っておかないとね。災難に付き合わせて悪かったわ、宗十郎くん。ほんと、あの子ったら昔から迷いってものがなかったから。
Yeah, that's one word for it.
なさすぎると思います。
Sojiro was enjoying the conversation, despite having to relive those events. About an hour passed by while the two of them sat in conversation, neither short on topics to discuss. Aoko was an easy topic for both of them, so the conversation centered mostly around her.
ところで、さっきから気になってることがあるんだけど、聞いていいかな？
What, if they're like a thing? With courteous posture, her eyes shined with curiosity. Her elegant demure caused Sojiro's heart to beat faster.
気になってることですか?
Despite his caution, he could not help but show deference to her. Whether Toko found Sojiro charming or not was unclear as she affectionately smiled at him.
ええ、一度目はダッシュで逃げられて驚いたけど、今日は違った意味で驚かされた。ね、そういうのが若い子たちの流行りなの？
Oh, his collar?
はい。
It is a little odd. Toko tilted her head, her eyes fixated on the collar that Aoko had given him snugly wrapped around his neck.
新手のチョーカー？でもどこから見ても、ほら。
What, a dog collar? The bee-speckled woman did her best to hold her tongue. On a completely unrelated note, in another decade, similar accessories would become a standard part of any visual K artist wardrobe. Oh god, yeah, those are like the fucking hair metal bands, but like Japanese and, not in the 80s.
まさか どこから見ても首輪ですよ。犬用の。
Who the fuck's texting me? My madre. I can ignore her for now.
やっぱりけどその首輪すごく可愛いわ。よく似合ってるけど自分でつけたの？
I mean, he put it on, but it wasn't his, his decision. Toko stared intently, examining the strap. While he had never been conscious of the collar till now, for some reason, Sojiro found himself blushing.
はい。つけたのは自分ですけど。
そうじゃなくて誰からもらったの？青子？それともグオンジさん？
くれたのは青子ですね。
Toko simply nodded in satisfaction at Sojiro's candid response.
つまり君は青子の持ち物なわけか。
She coldly muttered. With this, the cordial atmosphere began to turn. Sojiro nodded, naturally oblivious to the sting in her words.
何でも所有されてるそうです。
He said casually, causing Aoko to burst out in laughter. Toko was the quirky type of person to laugh when least appropriate. As her laugh tapered off into a giggle, she picked up her now empty teacup.
じゃあこれも青子のでしょ。青っていう名前にコンプレックスがあるくせに青いものが割と好きだから。
Weird thing to be bent out of shape over.
そうですけど、おかわりしますか？二人ともまだ帰ってきそうにありませんから。
いいえ、そろそろ帰ってくる頃よ。そういう風に仕向けたから。
Sojiro casually nodded, still clueless to the premonition to her premediation to the premediation of her visit. But then the strangeness of her phrasing dawned on him, and he tilted his head in confusion.
トウコさん。
Toko sighed once in response.
ごめんね、宗十郎くん。メガネ外してもいいかしら。
No, keep your mystic eye killers on, please. He wondered why she would need to ask his approval, but nodded anyway to affirm his consent.
それじゃあお言葉に甘えて。もう少しぐらいは君の反応を見ていたかったけど。
Toko touched the temples of her glasses. If you were to look close enough, you might have noticed how her slender fingers were scarred. Small, fine scars from years of repeated cuts. Instantly, her glasses fell away from her face, resigned to their fateful fall. It happened so fast, Sojiro barely understood what he saw. The frame cracked into pieces as it slid down her face and onto her lap.
やるもんだ。30体を一瞬とはね。
Sorry, I'm looking respectfully at her legs, because... Damn. Damn, Toko. Fuck. You weren't such a crazy bitch. Toko could sit behind her veneer no longer. By removing our glasses, the elegant lady of moments ago was gone. Any semblance of warmth and kindness had disappeared. What sat on the sofa was one deplorable mage, her demeanor darkening in the room. Sojiro sat speechless on the sofa. Across from him was the completely changed Toko, glaring back at him menacingly. More malice and magical energy was now emanating from Toko than when Aoko tried to kill Sojiro. She sat titillated at the prospect of the young boy's shock and fear at her transformation. Yeah, you're not really going to get much out of him. Such expectations, however, often left unfulfilled when it came to Sojiro.
メガネ壊れましたね。
Yeah, do you know how tricky it is to vacuum up like little fucking glass bits? Sojiro blurted out in surprise. Her hand stopped as she reached for a cigarette, the wind taken out of her sails.
もったいない。大丈夫ですかそれ。
いや、そんなものはいいんだ。多少視力が落ちた
No
ところ
point for
で
theatrics
大
here.
事にはならないし。
All your thespian antics are gonna fall on, not deaf ears, an unappreciative audience to say.
そもそも私がある限り、五感による情報にすら主観が入る。すべてこの世は霧の中だ。もともと目に見えるだけのものは信じていないたちでね。
Okay. Your speech had taken on a clinical tone. This too did not seem to shake Sojiro.
そうですか。それで、さっきの言葉の意味ですけど。
Sojiro began unflinchingly. Toko scowled back at him. After some consideration, she came to the conclusion she needed to be blunt with the boy. By some twist of fate, it was a headache she was now unknowingly sharing with her sister.
意味も何もない。青子たちの帰り道に多少の障害を置いただけだ。君は青子の持ち物だと言ったな。ならことさら丁寧に教えてやる必要もない。告白してしまうとね、宗十郎君。私が君たちの敵なんだ。
Though he understood her words, Clock's second hand would fully rotate twice over before anyone next spoke. They sat across from each other, eyes locked. Sojiro's shoulders tightened nervously. He had finally understood the true danger of the situation.
驚いた。
Toko asked with a grin. Despite the spitting image of each other, without her glasses, Toko's smile was rather sinister.
あなたは青崎の姉なのに。
Her smile pierced him as he asked the obvious. Toko was no longer surprised that Sojiro would be more concerned about the safety of others over his own. Just one short hour, she had come to understand Sojiro Suzuki better than he knew himself.
逆だよ。姉だから敵なんだ。私には青子からあらゆる権利を奪う義務がある。物質的なものも精神的なものも、その全てを踏みにじらなければ気が済まない。尺度として言うなら、もし青子がこの町に頼っていたのなら、まず町から壊していたぐらい。けど君のことは予想外だった。
Toko, her eyes closed, felt sorrow. Behind her troubled expression, there was a silent conflict.
世の平等に起こるべきか、偶然の出会いとやらに嘆くべきか。これも抑止力
Let's
という
not
や
talk
つ
about the
か。
counterforce. I don't want to deal with like fucking the will of a lie and all that shit.
無垢な部外者を手にかけるのは世の常だが、この手合いにあったのは初めてだ。いや、そもそもいるなどと考えたことすらなかったな。
Toko sighed. Yeah, she sighed at the ceiling and stirred in her seat. She seemed to have overcome an unexpected moment of uncertainty.
君は青子の切り札には見えない。
Not really.
排除しておくまでもない善良かつ無能な部外者だ。だから放っておきたいのだけど、私の六感がこう告げているんだ。
More plainly put, she had made up her mind to kill him. Though Sojiro was somewhat flattered at how she had grossly inflated his importance in all this, what dawned on him was the fact that, through karmic irony, Toko had inevitably arrived at the same conclusion as her sister. However, this was no time for idle thoughts. Sojiro readied himself to stand up from the sofa in such a way as to not draw attention to the plan so clearly written over his face. Make a run for it.
バカ者。こういう時は半端に動くな。逃げるならさっさと逃げる。交渉するならテコでも動くな。なんというか、そんな風に動かれると、その気がなくともつい反応してしまうだろう。
You're better as live bait.
命が惜しいのなら、おとなしく固まっていなさい。
殺さないんですか？
今のところはね。私は君が気に入ったし。いや、
Yeah, he has a charming simplicity
正
to
しく
him.
はこう。私ぐらいしか君を救ってあげられないのかもかな。
はい。
She looked the perplexed Sojiro straight in the eyes. Though actually brown, her eyes gleamed a piercing red, like the edge of a blade. Ooh, what kind of mystic eyes are those? It was in that moment an overwhelming sense of dizziness overcame Sojiro. His mind went numb, like he couldn't tell who he was, as if he was drifting into a sinister sleep from which he'd never wake. Sojiro clenched his jaw, desperate to maintain consciousness. Toko's eyes devoured him like a bottomless pit of quicksand. And, at that moment, all became clear to him. It no longer mattered that she was Aoko's sister, or that she was Alice's sworn enemy. Toko Ozaki's deadly battle with the girls had become his battle. Which is why, when you find yourself feeling a special spark for a stranger met mere moments ago, that feeling is not to be trusted. Or you may simply be attempting to fill an emptiness with the same mold as yours, with more emptiness. What? Okay, sure. Sojiro tried to drag his body away from the hitherto unencountered sense of danger, but found it would not respond. Toko tilted her head forward at him, eyes fixated on his.
君の思う通り、私は君と似たところがある。それとも君が私に近いのかな。何？食べ物の好き嫌い程度の類似だが、軽視することでもない。問題は、君が私より偏っているということでね。
Biased. She clearly used a different definition of the word than the one Sojiro knew. Biased. It meant that he was alone, that he was an outsider who didn't belong in this town. A sudden and seething anger eclipsed his gentle heart.
俺、一人じゃないですけど。
He's got its Nakama. Sojiro shot back with all the enmity he could muster. As he faced this witch named Toko Ozaki. If he had not, he feared he would never escape her gaze.
だろうな。だからこそ君は偏っているんだ。早くそれに気づきなさい。人間なんてたくましいもんでね。別に何もかも放り投げてもうまくいくものなのさ。けれど、青子にはそれは許せない。あれは
Didn't mean to cut you off, Toko, in your villain monologue. My bad. I was reaching for my teacup, but because of an uncoordinated oath, as I moved one hand forward and grabbed it, I also had to squeeze my other hand, which was holding the controller, hitting the button. Toko leaned over the table. She reached out, perhaps Sojiro's collar, and roughly pulled him towards her.
いや、
Oh
そんなことは
my.
いいんだ。ただ純粋に私は君が欲しいと思った。君が自分の名前すら定かではないと名乗った時にね。
Lady, at least like, you know, have dinner with the guy. Like,
自
my
分の
god.
認識が不明で自分自身が不能と感じる。未来というものがとても自分に関わりのあることとは思えない。となれば必然、心情は過去への逆行を試みる。しかし、
Also, he's a minor.
所詮
Hands
ソア
off.
の前のモアのように正常な流れの前には時間旅行は押し戻されてしまう。それも私にあって君にあるものだ。ああ、なんて無様な私。なんて哀れな。
What, done what? Fucking start monologuing? Toko trailed off mid-sentence. As she pulled Sojiro closer, her own eyes reflected in his, she noticed the merciful expression on her face. Sojiro got to thinking. He had no hostility towards this woman. He bore her no grudge, harbored no desire to kill her. He was aware only of his anger and aimless compassion. He wished that he could give her the answers she wanted. But Yeah. Same. Sojiro replied apologetically. A verbal reply to the visible question he received in her eyes. Toko showed no signs of disappointment. Instead, the corners of her lips turned upwards in delight.
そうか。君には言葉の暗示は通じないんだな。意味深なセリフ回しで丸飲みにしてやろうとも思ったが、いや失敗。小綺麗な建前は逆効果だった。
いや。
君に。いいよ。ますます気に入った。
Her fingers dug into his throat as if she were tearing at the leather. Perhaps he could be hers if only she could rip it off.
少年。青子なぞより私の元に来い。
Damn. Tags, NTR?
使い道はないが保護ぐらいはしてやろう。手が空いた時なら気晴らしに愛してやってもいい。
It had taken many approaches, but she seemed to have decided on this one. The lengths at which she went to seduce him were not lost on Sojiro, and truth be told, they were not wholly unwelcome. But back to the matter at hand.
それはお断りします。
Sojiro chose the direct response as he did.
なぜ？
だってあなたのためにならない。
He had confidence in that at least. Toko's overestimation of him aside, Sojiro knew for a fact that he had to escape this woman's clutches. Ooh. The what now? The tete what? Whomst? Google. We're gonna be stuck here as I Google how to pronounce that because I have no fucking clue, one, what that means, or two, how it's pronounced. Let's see. What, okay, it's like an E with a little up arrow? Yeah, alright, Google knew what I meant as soon as I started typing it.
Tete-a-tete. Tete-a-tete.
Tete-a-tete? Sure. A private conversation between two people. I hate French. I hate the French. This tete-a-tete could only be concluded by one of its two participants, Toko, or the individual she was currently infatuated with. Are there any other meetings besides a private conversation? An S-shaped sofa to which two people can sit face to face. Interesting. As an adjective, it's involving or happening between two people in private. Or an adverb, between two people in private. On a hunch, the boy mustered all the conviction he could feign. She gently removed her hand from his collar and jabbed him in the chest, causing him to topple back onto the sofa.
そうか。なら仕方がない。君も青子の大切な持ち物として考えることにしよう。
The scarred red mage quietly stood up.
青子が帰ってくる頃だから、私は行くよ。青子では私には勝てない。とだけ伝えておいてくれればいい。
それはいいんですけど。
Sojiro's reply from the sofa stopped the exiting Toko in her tracks. Yeah, if she has no chance of beating you, why don't you just beat her here and now? You're doing the thing where like the villain shows up at like the end of the first act in like a JRPG and like taunts the heroes after beating them a little bit, and then just leaves, so that way they can grow stronger and fucking kick their ass in the finale. Then, like a student humbly inquiring of a teacher, Sojiro pointed to the object in Toko's hand and asked,
そのカップどうするんです？
What, you just gonna take it? Because like, if Aqua likes it, that means she can't have it anymore. Surprised, she looked down at the teacup in her right hand, and she had forgotten she was holding. She hadn't even realized that she had been holding the cup the entire time.
これ？せっかくだからもらっていく。
And just the cherry on top to get her goat. The act of taking something without the owner's permission is commonly referred to as theft. However, this is more like the typical relationship between Aoko and Toko, share and share alike and so forth. Sojiro nodded to show that he understood. Unsure if his nod was sincere or not, Toko smiled that gleeful grin for the second time since taking her glasses off.
やはり変わり種だね、君は。逸材かどうかは別の話だが。
For just a moment, she had returned to the affable Toko Ozaki he met before the glasses came off. Leaving him with the image of her smile, she departed the mansion. Her broken glasses remained sitting on the drawing room table. No sooner than the eerie visitor left, did Aoko and Alice return home. Despite Aoko's sour mood, she seemed as merry as ever. Despite everything that had happened and their trip having its fair share of problems, she still had fun. Whereas Alice was her usual stoic self, with a form not unlike a parent following behind a rampaging toddler, cleaning up their mess. The scene of their return was like something out of a TV sitcom, and lost in thought, Sojiro forgot to greet them.
Sojiro, 留守中何かあった?
You could say that. Aoko asked, more so out of etiquette than curiosity, while removing her coat. Without answering, he stood up from the sofa.
そりゃ半日分の出来事はあったけど、それより寒かっただろう。お茶を入れようか?
Not gonna specify, go into details?
ああ、お願い。こっちも一から作戦練り上げようってとこだから。
Sojiro was on his way to the kitchen to prepare tea even before Aoko had finished her upbeat response. Or what, did you just forget that you even had that meeting? He was following his same tea brewing routine as always, but somehow, something did not feel the same. As though in a trance, Sojiro returned to the drawing room where they were settling down and placed the tea on the table.
これからどうするつもりなの、アオコ。
とりあえず足で探すしかないわね。あいつ相手に守りに入るのは良くない。こっちが城壁を作ってる間に一個シダの人形をこさえかねないわ。
They conversed with each other while ignoring Sojiro's presence. Upon hearing what they said, he stood up and spoke abruptly.
探すって、トウコさんを?
それ以外誰を探すって。ちょっと、あんた、今なんて言ったの?
Oh yeah, she was just here.
トウコさんなんだろ、青崎たちの敵は。さっきまでここにいたよ。
He answered so casually, Aoko was standing there dumbfounded. Alice stood up from the sofa and went to where the two of them were standing. Her typical kind and somber features turned reproachable.
しずきくん、その人、何かしていった？
お茶を飲んで、メガネを外して帰っていっただけだけど。あれ、よく思い出せないな。
What was once a clear memory seemed to have been scrubbed clean from his mind. Sojiro was overcome by the same dizziness he felt before. A sharp, dry smack echoed through the room. What snapped him out of his haze was an unexpected slap from Alice.
二度は言わないわ。他人を私の家に立ち入らせないで。
Even if it wasn't, Toko that had showed up. Fair. Deep within her eyes, beyond the normal cool indifference, was an intense fury. Realizing, however, that it was no ordinary anger, Sojiro understood how careless he had been.
すまない。アリスにとってここが大事な場所なのは分かってたのに。
Heavy silence followed. Both Sojiro and Alice stood there, chained to the spot by their own regret. Aoko looked on in amazement, wondering if they would stay this way all night if left alone.
あのね、姉貴を通した宗十郎も悪いけど、言ってなかったアリスも悪いでしょ。子供じゃないんだから、いつまでも反省してないで、もっと前向きに話をしない?
Yep, we all make mistakes. Moving on. What's important is that you learn from them. Alice hung her head and sat back down at Aoko's insistence. Sojiro stood where he was, nursing his stinging right cheek. Pain was pain, but he knew how to take a knock. More to the point, the crisp strike from Alice snapped him out of his fog, jogging his
思
memory.
い出した。青子じゃ私には勝てないって伝えておいてほしいって。
Yeah, she said you suck.
大した自信ね。他には？
他は基本的に世間話だったというか、あ、ソアとかモアとかよくわからないことを口にしてたな。
Yeah, she started saying French stuff. Considering the small talk was mostly about Aoko and her flaws, Sojo decided it would be better to take that part to his grave.
大河とショーガ？あの人、インドにでも行ってたのかしら。ところで宗十郎、あんた、姉貴に何かされたわね。
Clearly. Toko turned to him, glaring at him sharply. He had nothing to be ashamed of, but he looked away guiltily anyway.
何かって何さ？
思い出せないとか言ってたでしょ？さっきまでの態度もふわふわしてたし。
Yeah, she has some spell on you.
そうか。メガネを外したまでは覚えてたってことは、魔眼にでも見入られたか。
As quickly as she jumped to that conclusion, Aoko went quiet again, as if the information was of little importance. But it was not enough to distract Sojiro from bringing it up again. To detract.
青崎、魔眼ってなんだ？
魔力を帯びた目のことよ。
There's levels to them, they can do
簡
different
単なものは一時
things.
的な混乱を、上級なものは睨んだだけで相手を殺すとかね。バロールみたいな魔眼の持ち主なんて伝説だけだろうし、そもそもそんな魔眼持ちが生まれてくるなら、私たちの悩みもあっさり終わるってものだけど。
Without further context, Aoko knew her explanation was completely lost on Sojiro.
そうね。わかりやすく言うと、私の魔眼みたいなのを目から照射するようなもんよ。
目から？青崎か。
Not quite. It's more, they're the focal point, you know, where the magic is, you know, released from. Sojiro's confusion deepened along with Aoko's frustration.
だから、あなた、一度目を閉じた後のトーコの目を見たんでしょ？その一瞬で姉貴の魔眼に捕まったってこと。目を猫名詞に入れ替える魔術師もいるけど、姉貴はそんなことする必要はないから。あの人、生まれながらの魔眼持ちだしね。刺したる準備も栄唱もなしで、
Oh,
シャッタ
really?
ーす
She
るだ
has
けで切り替え自
natural
由な
mystic
の。
eyes, huh? Sojiro pounded his fist in understanding. Now he thought about it, he vaguely remembered her doing something exactly like that. Everything after was foggy and muddled, and her mystic eyes seemed the only logical cause.
その話は分かったけど、トウコさんは青崎のお姉さんなんだろ？なんで姉妹で殺し合いをしてるんだ？
It seems familial relationships between mages are messy. He knew it was not something he should ask, but he did it anyway. The question was against the rules. He had no business being involved in this dispute. Aoko closed her eyes to collect her thoughts. She decided it was best for all involved to at least share some background information, if only to head off further
いいわ、
questions.
話してあげる。姉貴に関わった以上、事情を説明しておかないと危ないし。けど、なんであれ聞き返すのはなしね。
Yeah,
こ
go
の件
ahead.
に
Give
関
us
しては
your tragic
私は
backstory.
私の事情を話すだけだから。
She stared down Sojiro until he nodded slowly in recognition. Knowing him, she knew this was confirmation enough. Conversation was becoming oddly friendly again, but Aoko sat up a little straighter as she prepared to tell the tale.
姉貴の話をするってことは、私と青崎の家の話と、何より魔術と魔法の話をしないといけない。
Well, like, true magic?
少し遠回りになるし、多言無用な内容だけど、いずれあんたの記憶は消えるから問題ないってことで。
Aoko made sure to add that disclaimer as a condition for telling him the information in the first place.
魔術っていうのはね、宗十郎、いわば共通のルールなのよ。ルーンやカバラといった魔術系統はそれぞれの科目、 世界共通のマニュアルだと思えばいい。
Yeah, to boil it down, true magic skips all the process and you just get the result straight away.
教科書さえきちんと持っているのなら、あとは血脈次第で誰でも魔術師にはなれるわ。けど、魔法を使うのは別。魔法は魔術みたいに根源の渦から派生した写本じゃなくて、根源の渦に直接つながるものだから。この根源の渦っていうのは、宗十郎の分かるレベルに落とし込むと、まあ太陽みたいなものと考えて。
OK。
遠くにあって何より初めにあるもので、それなくしては私たちは生活できないと言った。
Yeah, it's the origin.
魔術っていうのはこの太陽からの恩恵を利用しただけのものよ。自然現象の模倣ないし代償が魔術の本質だから。神秘を学び実践し再現するけど、神秘そのものを作ることはできない。いえ、研究の末にたどり着くんでしょうけど、そこには大きな壁がある。人知では。で、魔法っていうのは太陽そのものを扱うこと。
People try and always sneak over that wall or under it or through it. And the
誰
world
にも
doesn't
到
like
達で
that.
きない場所に行って何者にも真似できない奇跡を起こす。お金をかけようが時間をかけようが今の人類には到達できない技術、それが魔法。次元の壁を越えるっていうか、最後まで走ってみたら全く違うルールでできた世界があって、そのルールを学んじゃったってとこかしら。前に魔術に限界はないって言ったでしょ。あれは人知の及ぶ範囲なら限界はないって意味ね。対して魔法は限界だらけっていうか、一つのことしかできないけど、それも当然なの。だってこの宇宙の仕組みから仲間外れの一つっきりの交点
That's
な
why
の
there
か。
are different kinds of true magic.
魔術より魔法の方がすごいというのは流れ的にわかるんだけど。
Yeah, you can do like one thing, but that one thing is so astronomically busted. It's like playing with cheat codes turned on.
限界だらけなんだよな。
限界っていうか、特例、特権、越権の類ね。汎用性はないけど、誰にもできないことを可能とする時点で、魔術世界にとっては万能とされる。そもそも魔法は根源の渦にたどり着いた魔術師へのご褒美みたいなもので、たとえその術者に魔法を使うだけの肉体性能がなくても、根源へのパスができただけで魔術的にはやりたい放題ってわけ。要は地球で一番のお金持ちになるってこと。
Sojiro made an apprehensive sound, impressed. No, an appreciative sound, impressed. On the other hand, Alice looked as though she wished to make many revisions to Aoko's account.
一番の大金持ちか。じゃあどんなにお金持ちでも一番目でない以上は魔法はもらえないんだな。
まあそういうこと。時々とんでもない角度で確信をつくわね、こいつ。あんたの言う通り、同じルート、同じ方法で根源にたどり着いても、一番目じゃないと魔法にはたどり着けない。どんなに優れていても、2番目以降には意味がないのよ。魔法使いが5人、いえ4人か。現存する魔法使いが4人しかいないのは、一度使われたルートは閉ざされてしまうから。大昔はそうでもなかったって話だけどね。根源への道、真理への到達に壁を作ったのは皮肉なことに人間自身だった。未知を解明すればするほどルートが閉じていくなんて昔の魔術師たちは思いもしなかったんでしょう。でも結果はこの通り。気がついた時には後の祭りっていうか、多くの研鑽の末、この世から魔法は消えていっちゃったわけ。
Now you can only do imitations with magecraft.
それは 山と町の関係に似てると思っていいのかな。
ミクロな視点で言うなら似たようなものよ。で、つい最近まで現代の魔術師たちは残された最後の席を求めていたけど、それもちょっと前にどこぞの田舎者が横取りしちゃって、イス取りゲームはあえなく終了。あとは魔法抜きで根源にたどり着くため、地味で無意味な魔術の研究を続けることになった。もともと魔法なんてのを優先してたのは一部の魔術師だけで、他の真っ当な連中はとっくに見切りをつけてたんだけどね。
Just thinking about all the magicians I know. There's Zelrich. Fucking the Einsburn ancestor. Fucking what's her nuts. You know, the third magic, Heaven's Feel, whatnot. Fuck, there's the one magic that, you know, the fucking user doesn't even have a name. I think that's the one where it has to do with, like, the crystallization of ether or whatnot. And then there's the other one, which, you know, the user also doesn't have a name, but it said they're the, you know, transition of the 80 to, you know, the BC to the 80 era and whatnot. And, like, even more sharp decline of magic in the modern age, so, it's pretty easy to guess who that one is.
だって魔術師にとって最終目的は根源の渦への到達であって魔法じゃないし、そのあたりいつの間にかごっちゃになっちゃったんでしょ。卵が先か鶏が先かって話。
よし、全くわからないってことは分かったんで、そろそろ本題に入ってくれ。あ、けど1番目の人間しか魔法使いになれないのに、魔法使いは何人もいるのか？
Complicated.
5人いたわ。最終的に人間に残される最後の課題は5つだろうって一番初めの。青子。
Yeah, let's not get into the weeds.
じゃあ本題ね。魔法と魔術の関係が分かったところでようやくうちの話になるんだけど、青崎の家が代々魔術師だったのは前に言ったでしょ。歴史的には浅いけど運と才能には恵まれていたのね。青崎はなんだかんだって魔法にまでたどり着いたんだから。
It's a family heirloom. I guess that's our country bumpkin.
じゃあ青崎がその。
私はあくまで魔術師見習い。使えないし使う気もないわよ、魔法なんて。私はただ青崎の家を継いだだけだもの。
Aoko asserted obtusely, her voice devoid of emotion. She became a mage not to wield magic, but simply because the succession of her family's magecraft was forced on her.
とにかく根源の渦にたどり着くには何代も何代も魔術を研究しなくちゃいけない。自分独自の皮を作るようなものなんだから、もちろんその過程は果てがない。
Some mages are just doing whack shit and throwing, you know, garbage at the wall to see what sticks.
よほどの天賦か典型でもない限り、魔法を作るなんてできないしね。
Looking at you, Aizen. What does a fucking apartment building have to do with getting to the root?
そしてもし根源にたどり着いても、ふさわしい後継者がいなければ、一代限りの奇跡で終わってしまう。だから魔術師は血脈を重ねて、代々の魔力を時代に積み重ねていく。自分より優れた後継者を生むために。
Aoko wrapped up the explanation by remarking that it was like producing a thoroughbred. Not that Sojiro knew what a thoroughbred was to begin with, leaving him as perplexed at the end of the story as he was at the beginning.
そうやって代を重ねて、
mages are
魔術師が作り
indiegenics.
上げた独自の神秘、守り続けた魔術を次の世代に伝えていくの。
They probably believe in race science too.
きっと最後の
Well,
最
at
後
least
に
some of them certainly
全
do.
ての疑問を打ち消すに足る答えがあるはずだって。
Luvia has made some questionable remarks in the past about Asians.
みんな悟ってるのよ。自分の代でもその次の代でもきっと最後の最後の最後まで 誰もゴールにはたどり着けないって結末を。それを分かっていながら魔術を研究していくのが神秘学に取りつかれた者の宿命だって祖父はよく口にしてた。けど私の姉はそうじゃなかったみたい。
She left, I could see why, hanging in the air. Alice had no response. The Ozaki... the Ozaki? I don't even know what I said the first time there. The Ozaki family, passing down true magic. Aoko, the reluctant successor. And Toko Ozaki, her elder sister.
本当は青崎の後継者は姉貴だった。
Yeah, what'd she do to get disinherited?
私もうちの家業が何であるかは教えられてきたけど実践することはなかったのよ。魔術師の家系はよっぽど裕福でもない限り基本的に一子相伝だからね。うちほんと財力的には一般家庭レベルだし。で後継者にはより魔術に適したものが選ばれるわけだけど姉貴は確かに天才だった。
What?
けどそれは青崎の後継者にはいらない才能だった。
Her affinity didn't match up with the family magic very well.
その代わり私は心底青崎の後継者としてふさわしかったみたい。まあそれはそれでどうも思わないけど祖父がはっきりと私にくら替えしたのが15歳の冬の頃でさ。姉貴はいきなり4つ年下で今まで魔術に関わってなかった妹に魔法の相続権利を奪われたってわけよ。
そうか、それで。
She said she was obligated to take what was Aoko's. Toko's words from not moments ago, her voice full of resentment as she spoke them.
あの人がどんな思いをしたか私は本人じゃないから知らないけど祖父と言い争って今まで愛用してたメガネを叩き壊して家を出て行ったのが3年と半年前。それから全く消息なしで私は姉の代わりになったの。これが私と姉貴の争う原因でしょうね。
Can't guys just go to like family therapy? Sojiro thought the story was tragic, but Hako's voice had a tone of relief in it. Sojiro did not know exactly who he should feel bad for anymore.
メガネを壊したか。
そう、あの人昔はすっごく目が良かった。生まれながら魔眼を持ってたって化け物だからね。けど祖父の期待に応えようとして無理して頑張った挙句視力が下がっちゃったみたい。
Hako wrestled with the memory, not sure if she had everything down exactly right. Sojiro knew how well Aoko could hide her emotions, and this was not one of those moments.
けどあれに何の意味があったんだろう。メガネをジジイに叩きつけるぐらいならフィンの一撃でも叩き込めばよかったのに。あの人あの頃が才能のピークだったんだし猛録したジジイなんてそれこそ一撃だったと思うんだけど。
Sojiro shook his head, disappointed at Aoko's misjudgment of the situation.
恨みつらみの話じゃない。そのメガネは大事なものだったんだ。だってそれは誰にだってわかる努力の証なんだから。それを叩きつけたんだ。痛かったんだろうな、トウコさんは。
As Sojiro spoke, neither Aoko, nor Alice noticed the grief he was fighting to hold in. More accurately, they could not understand his point of view. After all, in a world where mages were raised to fight other mages, empathy was in short supply.
けどどうして今頃になって戻ってきたのかしら。青子の言う通りトウコさんならもっと早く美咲氏を奪えたのに。
そうね。そんなに土地が欲しかったのなら3年前に私を殺せば後継者に戻れたのに。
Yep, real cut and dry, easy way to do it.
世間の荒波に揉まれて気が変わったとか？
違う。青崎は本当にわからないのか。
Sojiro shook with faint anger. His voice changed from the boy they thought they knew.
何よ、あんたならわかるっていうの？
誰だってわかる。
I mean, I don't really get it.
トウコさんは青崎が一人前になるのを待っていたんだ。自分が失ったものと同じくらい大切なものをなくさせるために。
Well, less fair
そうしない
than
とどうにもならない。そこまでしなくちゃいけないほどあの人の怒りは深かったんだ。
yeah, let you build yourself up so that when she pushes you off your pedestal, it's an even bigger fall. Sojiro gazed at them, wondering why they could not see what he could see. Only, he was the one who did not understand. Two girls, above all Toko Ozaki, deny themselves the type of relationships that normal people are allowed to experience. Toko's actions were not fueled by hatred. While there certainly was hatred behind them, the real reason was and always has been Toko's pursuit of true magic. She was an ambitious and talented mage. Her hatred was only her veneer. Thinking of her in any other way would be an insult to the elder sister who devoted her life to the study of magecraft. All of this Aoko wanted to tell Sojiro, but instead stopped herself. Even if she had, Sojiro was not a mage and could not understand, and besides, arguing with him any further would not have brought her any joy. She could not have put it into words even if she had tried. And so...
やけに姉貴の肩を持つじゃない、宗十郎。
I mean, have you seen her? Fucking smoke show.
一目惚れでもした？
In her own cowardly way, Aoko dodged the subject. She smirked childishly.
肩ぐらい持つ。あの人はかわいそうな人だからな。
Sojiro did not take the bait. Aoko was frustrated at his reply.
なぜ？
An icy glare replaced her smile. He did not falter, only plainly stating,
だって実の妹と争わなくちゃいけないんだろう。それはかわいそうなことじゃないのか？
This was the source of his frustration.
確かに。
Ako's eyes narrowed unconsciously, as if hiding from a painful truth. This guy is a poison, she thought to herself. Poison with no antidote. With his words, he was unwittingly bringing her weakness to light.
だけど私も姉貴もそれを何とも思ってないのよ。だってそれ以外に解決策はないんだから。
Sojiro looked down and frowned in defeat. And that's sad too, he muttered. And with that sad revelation is where we're going to end it here for tonight, because I don't know how much longer this chapter is going to go. I feel like we're getting towards the end of it, but I don't want to be stuck here all night. You don't want to be stuck here all night listening to me or morning. I'm recording this at night. That's why I'm saying night. So, once again, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell. See you all next time for the next episode of Mihoyo, where we'll probably finish up this chapter and start the next one, depending how long it is. Who knows? Find out, watch the next video when it comes out to find out. Bye. I'm gonna go have a drink.